Hello all, good evening and welcome to the Carpinteria City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2026. And I will request a roll call, please.
Councilmember Mayor,
Here.
Councilmember Nomura,
Here.
Vice Mayor Solorzano,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
and Mayor Alarcon.
Here. And if you are willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will begin our meeting with introductions, proclamations, and presentations. And our first item is the fiscal year 2025-2026 Community Services Support Grants Program Update and Grantee Presentations.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Ryan Benson, one of the management analysts for the City Manager's Office. Before you tonight is an update on the fiscal year 25-26 Community Services Support Grant Program, along with formal progress presentations from 3 of our grantees who are here today. Thank you for being here. As a reminder to all, the Community Service Support Grant Program provides vital funding to local nonprofits to enhance quality of life for Carpinteria residents, support the city's youth and seniors, and address critical social services needs. During this year's grant funding cycle, staff instituted a new program requirement for all participating organizations to submit a progress report to City Council, and that's going to be attachment A in your staff reports. It's staff recommendation to receive and file the fiscal year 25-26 CSSG progress reports, and tonight we'll have 3 presentations like I had said. The first presentation is from Guadalupe Perez from Carpinteria Children's Project. So I'd like to invite you up there, and if we're ready to proceed with that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Guadalupe Perez. I'm the Director of Early Learning at Carpinteria Children's Project. And I really want to start by saying thank you to the City of Carpinteria for your investment in our youngest learners. Through the scholarship support that we've had, we've been able to ensure that every child, regardless of income, can thrive and have a rich and inclusive dynamic environment. Your support strengthens children, families, and the community. In our program, we currently have bilingual education that's provided through play, learning, and relationship. We have our bilingual education through literacy and vocabulary throughout the classrooms during group time, and that is very vital and important for our families. Through the scholarship as well, we have enrichment opportunities, which we partner with 2 other organizations, which is Music and Movement with Kathy, and we offer 30-minute sessions of music to our kiddos every week, and we also partner with the Wilderness Youth Project, which has some of the same important core values that we have of being outdoors, learning through play, and those scholarship opportunities are providing these enrichment opportunities as well. At our center, we are community. We really have our Family Resource Center, our partners, and our partnership with CUSD that really believes in the whole family. So these scholarships are working together to provide that support for the whole family, whether it be with mental health support, whether they're access to food bank, and it is all thanks to your partnership. Scholarships open doors for families to access high-quality early education. And one of the best ways that I can share how your contribution has supported us is through a family story that I will be sharing.
Oh, yep.
through a short video. At Carpinteria Children's Project, we really believe in the whole family. We have a very rich early education program that focuses on social emotional learning, on dual language, and providing enrichment activities for our students. Our families that are enrolled in our program have access to our Family Resource Center.
The resources can be receiving diapers that day, receiving food, receiving a mental health referral, really connecting the whole family to resources that the family does need.
Eduardo está por cumplir 3 años. Actualmente para mí es muy inteligente. Estuve preocupada hace meses atrás porque no hablaba mucho.
Lo que yo empecé a ver en Eduardo era de que él llegaba y por lo mismo que él no puede hablar al 100%, él empujaba o lloraba o quitaba los juguetes o los materiales a los niños. Pero hemos estado trabajando en donde él poco a poco está empezando a socializar, está empezando a usar sus palabras y está empezando a dar ese paso en cuestión emocional de que ya no es tanto de estar gritando. Ese es una gran avance para él y para nosotros y para la familia también. Y la familia lo ha visto.
Pues realmente CCP ha ayudado mucho a Eduardo en tanto darle asistencia 1 a 1 porque saben que él ocupa mucho este apoyo.
Él tiene, a pesar de que tiene un poco de problemas con su lenguaje, él ha podido estar adaptado a lo que es la clase y a sus compañeros.
We are really big believers that we can only be so effective with the kids. We wanted the parents to have the same knowledge and information that we have about the importance of childhood development.
Y estoy buscando que mi hijo puede crecer en sus conocimientos.
We're ready to help any family, regardless of income, of background, nationality.
We are able to advocate for the families, advocate for the students.
I would want the community to understand really how much their support means.
Si ellos quieren mirar a CCP como un buen lugar para apoyar, ellos usan sus recursos de muy buena manera.
The kids in our classrooms today really are the leaders of Carpinteria in the future.
La importancia que tiene el programa o el impacto que da a toda la comunidad, con todo el apoyo que tiene. CCP cuenta con un staff que está totalmente capacitado, no nada más para cuidar, sino que también para enseñar, para que en un futuro, cuando ya están en otra escuela, que el siguiente paso es ellos ya están preparados en cuestión académica.
So scholarships open doors. They expand access to high quality preschool for families in need. It removes financial barriers for early education and supports those working families during challenging times. So thank you for believing in children and families, and together we're building a stronger future in Carpinteria.
Now we'd like to invite up Melinda Cabrera and also Diana Ornelas from United Boys and Girls.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the City of Carpinteria and the council members for your support of United Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara County. My name is Melinda Cabrera, and I am the new CEO. I stepped into the role about 2 months ago. So I'll speak generally and broadly about our organization and who we serve and how we serve our members, and then I'll turn it over to Diana, who is our local club director, who will really focus on the supports that we provide to the members and families in Carpinteria. And so the mission at United Boys and Girls Club is to enable all people, especially those who need us the most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens. Could you, next slide, please?
Of course.
I was going fast.
Yep.
We only have 5 to 7 minutes. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so organizationally, we serve over 2,600 youth every single year. We have 4 standalone sites, one of which is in Carpinteria. We have 4 school-based sites, and then we operate a 94-acre camp in the San Ynez Mountains, which really caters to that quintessential overnight camp experience. Our members range from TK all the way through 12th grade, with 85% of our members falling within grades K through 6. 76% of our members qualify for free or reduced lunch, and here in Carpinteria, that's 64% of our members qualify for free or reduced lunch. Next slide, please. Our core programmatic areas fall within these categories. So education and career development. Every afternoon, our students receive support through Power Hour, which is homework help and tutoring, and we have programming that mitigates summer learning loss throughout the summer months. Character and leadership is very important to us, and we have dedicated teen programming that really serves that teen demographic through character and leadership and career exploration. We have Youth of the Year that really highlights those members who are exhibiting strong character and leadership skills. Of course, STEAM with science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We really want to expose our members to experiential learning and all different subject matter to really see what they're good at, what they're interested in. And again, it's about opportunities and exposing our kids to a variety of different activities. Healthy and life skills. Through our Zero Hunger program, we do serve supper every single day, and then during the summer months, it's breakfast and lunch. Last year alone, we served over 63,000 meals to our members, and it's really important to us that those meals are nutritious and really prepare our kids for the days ahead. Our Smart Girls program and our Passport to Manhood, and our anti-bully program, those are really programs that are geared towards empowering our members at every stage and every level as they grow to really empower them and advocate for themselves so that they can take on any situation that they might find themselves in. And of course, sports, fitness, and recreation, indoor soccer, basketball, flag football, and our Triple Pay program really, again, exposes our students or our members to different types of sports and encourages physical activity. And so I've kind of covered this through the other slides, but over 2,600 members served. Our average daily attendance across all of our sites is a little over 500. And again, last year alone, we served over 63,000 meals. And so we're really proud of our programming, and we really try to respond to the needs of each community that we serve. And so I want to turn it over to Diana, who can really speak to how we specifically serve the unique needs of our Carpinteria community.
Hello, I'm Diana Ornelas, United Boys and Girls Club Santa Barbara County, Carpinteria unit. And I first just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you here, the City of Carp. I know last year, July 10th, I may have not have been so kind. I was really passionate about what was going on in Carpinteria, and I wanted to thank you for recognizing the needs to provide services for our kids at the Carpinteria Boys and Girls Club. It's been a hard year, but with your help, we really were able to service those families that maybe were impacted by deportation. So I really want to thank you for that. We were able to get them feel safe in our club. We were doing picking up kids from school for families that were not ready to go driving anymore. We take them home. We're also feeding them lunch. We're doing homework. I'm just really grateful for that, so just wanted to say that first. Now the fun stuff. Melinda really always said all the fun stuff, but I really wanted to tell you a little bit about our teen program. A few years ago, we really had maybe 2 teens, and now we're up to 22 teens. And we're having, just for anyone here as a teen, we're having a teen night June 5th, and we're going to do some, what's it called? Laser tag in our gym. So anyone that has a teenager, send them on down June 8th. It's the 8th or the 5th, I can't remember, it's a Friday. Send them on down. We'd really like to have that whole gym full of kids to play laser tag. And we're really looking forward to our summer. And I don't know, just really thank you for everything that you have for us. I really do appreciate it. Wouldn't be here if I couldn't. You know I don't like to talk, so anyway, thank you. That's all I have. That is yours, that is mine.
All right. Last but not least, Jamie Collins from Girls Inc. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me add it for you. 1 sec. Yeah. You said it. Here it is. Exit. Okay. You just click. You just gotta click right there.
Hello, good evening. Hold on, sorry, I'm just gonna get lined up so it goes a little smoother. All right, thank you so much for having us. I'm Jamie Collins, Executive Director of Girls Inc. of Carpinteria, and I have Madeline Balzer with me, our Development Director, and then because of childcare, 2 Girls Inc. girls. So kind of full house representing tonight. I'm here to share about the impact of the Community Service Grant, a little bit about our history and kind of where we see ourselves going in the future. So we're extremely thankful, like all of our grantees here tonight, for the support of the city. I know that that's a unique opportunity that the city provides here in Carpinteria, and it's one that we don't take lightly or take for granted. Because of the continued support, we've been able to increase our programming, our 24/7 access to our food pantry, and our resilience resources in the county. For those of you who don't know, Girls Inc. has been around since 1864 across the nation and in Canada. Locally, we've been here since 1971 with our mission to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold, and a vision of powerful girls in an equitable society. We do that through our programming. So we want girls to be healthy, educated, and independent, AKA strong, smart, and bold. Primarily, we do that through our campus-based programs, our outreach, and our in-school programming. And then we also saw a huge piece with that family strengthening and that community resilience. So those are kind of the 3 pillars we work out of. We have a holistic and layered approach. Some call it the Girls Inc. experience, which is people, programming, and environment. So being really cognizant of those 3 things. And we recognize that girls are supported and thriving when they have strong families and resilient communities. So through our research-based programming, mentorship, family engagement, financial support, and community resources, that's how we're able to continue to develop this foundation for girls and families. A little bit about our campus-based program. So we have our beautiful campus that was built for the community by the community in 1994. There we house our traditional after-school program. We have our summer day camp. We also host strong camps and a gymnastics program. Our programs primarily focus on reaching the gap between literacy and STEAM programming that we recognize here in the school. So we work really closely with CUSD to see where the gaps are as the children continue to kind of grow, and then adjust our needs, our programs to meet those needs. Our outreach and in-school programming, so we host Recess Club at all of the elementary schools, which is providing structured activities during recess times, because we know that tends to be the times that more issues arise on the playground. We also have our strong outreach that introduces girls to a variety of sports. One of the things we're focusing on right now is highlighting the gap between elementary athletics, middle school athletics, and high school athletics. For those of you that are proud warriors, we need some uplift in our athletics programs. So we run specifically targeting middle school girls for volleyball and basketball right now. We also have our Eureka program, which I believe is in its 13th year, which is our college-bound STEM program. That is for 8th grade through 12th graders. And most recently, we're in year 2 of Project Accelerate that supports young women 18 to 24 as they matriculate from high school to college, college to career. And then, of course, we have our family engagement and strengthening. We host family engagement events. We host a big Thanksgiving dinner. And these are just really times for the families not to think about dinner that night and to be able to come and do hands-on activities with their kids and have everyone kind of experience that Girls Inc. experience. And that is open to the community regardless if you have a girl enrolled in Girls Inc. programming or not. And then we are one of 3 community resilience hubs in the county. And so basically what that means is we support the community through the County of Santa Barbara, through the City of Carpinteria, and the Red Cross to plan for disasters and then help the community respond, recover, and thrive after a disaster happens. So we continue that work. We have monthly meetings to kind of hear what's going on and have created a lot of great partnerships around that. Our impact this year so far, we've reached 450 youth, so that's boys and girls, because we do serve some boys, through our Strong, Smart, and Bold programming. We rescued over 62,000 pounds of food through our food pantry program, which is available 24/7 Primary recipients of this program include our senior citizens here in Carpinteria, as well as the families we serve and our local agricultural farm workers. And honestly, it's kind of fun to see who's just popping over and checking out what's in the pantry for the day. One of my favorite kind of stories from that is we had a high school teacher who came by and she's like, I have 5 boys at home and they are eating me out of house and home. And so she just needed some extra bread to continue to feed 5 teenage boys. So we all definitely feel the impact right now. We have about 70 students in our after-school enrichment program that are on scholarship assistance. We grant about $200,000 annually in scholarship assistance, and for this next year, we're projecting to give out about $220,000 as we continue to see an increased need. We do have a LISTOS program, and so now our families who receive 100% scholarship have to participate in parent education courses. So our first year focused on financial literacy, and this past year focused on how to raise a strong, smart, and bold girl, and just talked about issues that parents are dealing with in raising young children. So. And then in the community, so our impact extends far beyond our walls. We partner with AgeWell and share our space for pickleball and other community wellness activities. We've expanded access through our in-school outreach program, like our STEM club, bringing in hands-on engaging STEM activities for 3rd through 5th graders at Canalino. And then we're an emergency shelter on top of being a resilience hub and have the supplies to support up to 300 people for 5 days should a disaster strike, or when a disaster strikes. Why this work matters. So obviously the community needs are accelerating as girls continue to face rising academic pressure, mental health challenges, and fewer safe and supportive spaces. Really trying to be that second home for the girls outside of the school days. Working families are increasingly relying on trusted youth development partners to help provide that consistent care. And then also recognizing the trickle-down impact of federal budget cuts to the state budgets, to the trickle-down effect that it's hitting nonprofits now, especially youth development nonprofits, as funders shift their focus to highlight accessibility needs to vital things like food and housing. So definitely feeling that on our side as well. And then we saw family engagement event attendance decline during periods of heightened ICE activity. And so figuring out how we can adjust to support the families and still provide those activities. And how the community can continue to support investing in programs like Girls Inc. and Boys and Girls Club and CCP, and the art center is here as well. And they have some great summer camp programs. Volunteering, we always need volunteers for our food pantry program. That's the only reason that program is still in existence is because of our volunteers. And then just advocating for the needs of youth, because they're going to grow up and be you guys one day. So we appreciate your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to end, I'm going to pass it on to the city manager, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. We have 3 powerhouse women who came up here and spoke on behalf of those organizations. And since I've been here, you know, the things that were passed along to me from Dave Derflinger when he left, one of the things he had mentioned was how when the city first formed, they were deciding what things the city was going to do and not do. And one of the things the city intentionally didn't get into were the programs that the Boys and Girls Club and Girls Inc. were already doing so well. And instead, the city decided to support those with early budgets, including balls and bats and things like that. And so just really grateful for them, see them as an extension of what the work we do here in City Hall, and just thank you to you all.
Thank you. Before we move to questions or comments on behalf of the council, I'd like to open up public comment. And I do have one speaker slip for Christina Calkins. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Christina Calkins, the Executive Director at the Linda Fairley Carpinteria Arts Center. And thank you, we received grant support, but because our grant amount was less than those 3 nonprofits, I'm going to share just a little bit during the public comment. And a shout out to Ryan for managing the grant program. Thank you. So I handed out our community impact report for 2025, where you'll see details about our Bellas Artes program, which is the program that was funded by the community grant program. And it is a program where we take the arts out into the community, namely to the people's self-help housing complexes in town. There's the 3 different ones, and we rotate weekly taking programs along with the Abuelas program at CCP and partnering with AgeWell. Also on Fridays, the senior program. And we started also offering a free weekly workshop in Spanish at our facility on Thursdays from 10 to 12. And then we also have a free workshop in English on Fridays. And we have offered in 2025 143 off-site workshops, and they range from arts, culture, music. They're just fabulous. We even offer dance lessons on every Thursday night at Dahlia Court at 5:30. So if you're ever interested in coming and trying one out, we'll see how your salsa and cumbia is. And the program also supported our Teen Mural Project, which is a free mural collaborative project that we do every year for teens, and it is in our courtyard. We pivoted during the pandemic to a panel approach so people could take it home, and we loved it so much that we continue that along with an in-person painting day. And you will be the first to know this evening our theme for this year is going to be Celebrate. So the teens will be inspired by that theme, and we are celebrating our 25th anniversary as a nonprofit. So that'll be very exciting. Please mark your calendar for September 12th. We're going to have a community celebration and an unveiling of this mural. And past mural panels are currently on display in Santa Barbara at the Channing Peak Gallery, which is the bottom floor of the Santa Barbara County offices across from the courtyard. So thank you very much again for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. I do not have any other speaker slips. Do we have?
I turned in one.
For this item, is your name Donna?
Yes.
Okay, we have you set for general public comment, so we're not there just yet. Okay. Thank you, though. Do we have any other public comment for this item? Via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
Okay, I will close public comment, bring it back to the council for any comments or anything you all would like to share.
Sure, I'd like to comment and compliment the organizations that came forward with this one. Carpinteria is very rich in having these types of resources, and that's why our youth do so well. What I would also like to state is that even though the city participates, it's the community that actually puts in quite a bit of the money also. We're kind of a drop in a bucket. And if it weren't for the community helping out, they wouldn't be around, nor would we. So, again, my comments, congratulations to all you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I feel like I say this every time any of you are in this room, but I just feel so proud to have grown up in this community, to be so impacted by all the work that you're doing, and now watching, the generations who are receiving this. And I think more than anything, it's just a really good reminder of why the work is so important. And this last year specifically, being reminded of why we need to do the work. So I really appreciated you coming and sharing all the work that you've done and the impact that you're having on our community, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And then do we need a motion to receive and file for this one?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, it's just a presentation. And I would just say I really appreciate the organizations that came out and shared the results of what we were able to contribute or provide. I think Councilmember Nomura is correct. What we've been able to give is just a drop in the bucket, but it does show that just how important it is for the city that you all are providing these essential youth services. I'm fortunate enough to have had my kids at all of those programs at one point in time or another, so I've seen the effects and just the positive impact it's made. So I appreciate you all for what you do and what you can continue to do in this community. So thank you. And I would also like to say to Ryan and the staff, we have really massaged this community services grant program over the last several years. And I'm really impressed with where we have taken it today, where we can really hear the impact from the organizations themselves. And I really appreciate just the report guidelines and the challenges that some of these organizations are feeling, I think, or seeing. I think that really gives, at least from my perspective as a council member, kind of eyes and ears on the ground that we wouldn't have had in the past. So thank you, Ryan, for all the work that you've done with this program. Great. Any other comments?
I would like to second the receive and file, though. I think that's kind of crucial that we do that in recognition of the programs.
Yeah, that's fine. Was that your first?
Yes. So
Okay.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the presentations.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So we will now move on to the second item on our agenda, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, community members. I'll start correction for Powerhouse women in the audience. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Christina. And so I'm going to start just with a little update on our recruitments. And before that, I'll remind the public again that the city manager's report includes information about employee updates, CIP projects, and various things. I don't always cover every item and encourage folks to read that city manager's report in its entirety, and also that there's some helpful links and things in there for people to click. But to start on some of our recruitments, we're currently recruiting for a chief building inspector plans examiner, and that deadline is approaching May 31st. Also, a facilities tendant, part-time, which is open until filled. Bless you. And that one is helping to manage our various rentals and things that we have at the Vets Hall. And then also a recreation leader part-time, which also there's a deadline for consideration of first review of applications. It's also on May 31st. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our principal planner, Mindy Fogg, who's already faster than Nick, is already here to touch on some updates on development applications.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a handful of community development updates. First, we want to remind everyone that we are currently in the Notice of Preparation, or NOP, comment period for the city's Coastal Land Use Plan and General Plan update. So we'll be preparing a Program Environmental Impact Report, or PEIR, to analyze how the updated plan could affect the environment and identify measures to reduce or avoid such impacts. And the deadline for submitting NOP comments is Friday, June 5th at 5 p.m. And you can find the NOP itself and all of our contact information by going to the main city homepage, selecting Hot Topics, and clicking on Coastal Land Use Plan, General Plan Update. And next, we have an update on the Farm Project, which is the proposed residential project on the bluffs at 5885 Carpinteria Avenue. Last month, we executed our contract with the environmental consultant team at ESA, and that contract is to prepare the project EIR for that development plan. So 2 weeks ago, we had our site visit and kickoff meeting with ESA, and we are now targeting some upcoming dates for the NOP period and scoping meeting. Our tentative dates for the 30-day NOP comment period is June 11th through July 10th, June 11th through July 10th, and the scoping meeting date would be Tuesday, June 30th, here in City Council chambers, and that would be an in-person and virtual meeting starting at 5:30 p.m. And so we recommend saving those dates, and anyone interested in receiving notices on the farm project should email us at thefarmproject@carpinteriaca.gov. We've also started updating the project website for that, which can be accessed by going to the main city homepage, selecting hot topics, clicking on housing, and then scroll down to the Farm Project 5885 Carpinteria Ave. A quick update from Chevron about a power pole replacement that's occurring on their property. The work is being done by Southern California Edison, and the replacement would ensure that the power is still supplied to the pier, but not supplied to the onshore facilities that are being decommissioned. So it's a pole that is located adjacent to the Coastal Vista Trail and railroad tracks. And site preparation was to start today and continue tomorrow, and the pole replacement is scheduled for this Thursday. And so during that time, some trail access will be hindered, and visitors should see some signage out there with some detour signs this week. We have a regularly scheduled Planning Commission hearing next Monday, June 1st. I have just a few items. The proposed project for Surf Cottages condominiums on 7th Street will be considered for approval. And also for the Commission's approval is the Cooler Residence, which is a 2-story single-family home proposed on Linden Avenue. And the Verizon Wireless site proposed on the downtown clock tower was supposed to be heard this Monday, but Verizon is asking for a continuance until December on that project. The agenda and staff reports for these items will be available on the city's meetings and agendas page this Thursday. And finally, we also want to note again that there's an opening in the city's Architectural Review Board. So interested individuals can submit an application online, or they can contact our city clerk, Brian, at brianb@carpinteriaca.gov. And that's all I have, unless you have some questions for me.
Questions? Yeah, just one quick question. You mentioned the PEIR and the EIR for the two updates, the coastal land use plan, general plan, and then the farm project. Can you, just for anyone who might be listening, can you give examples of what types of comments are being sought in this? Because I know it can be confusing. Sometimes I think people think, oh, it's just comments about the project in general, but can you give some examples of what those might look like?
Certainly. Thank you, Vice Mayor Solarsano. Through the mayor, they're very different projects, obviously. The general plan update is high level, our plan for a future build out of the city. And so for this NOP period that we're in, we want to get input that will help us with the scope of the program EIR, and that includes commenting on topics of concern, things that people might think will be affected by the future build out of the city, the plan, and its policies. And so any feedback on the potential environmental impacts, as well as ways to reduce impacts. So if there are more suggestions for either policies or implementation actions that would help reduce future impacts to the environment, we would really like to hear that. We also would love input on what the alternatives analysis should be. And so last year when we had a public workshop on the plan, a good example is that many people brought up the Chevron property and what the land use designation should be. And that's a great input for us as we evaluate alternatives, because we can consider different land use designations for that property as part of our alternatives analysis. And also in our NOP, if you go in there and read through it, we also have a list of about a dozen project objectives. And those objectives also help with the scope of the EIR and the alternatives. So if anyone wants to give us feedback on what our draft project objectives are, we would welcome that. You mentioned the farm project NOP, so pivoting a little bit, it's the same process. We're asking for input on what the scope of the EIR should be for that project, but it's a project level type of EIR. And so if people go in, we haven't put up the NOP yet, but we want them to look at the NOP, what the project description is, look at the proposed plans for that development, and similarly, tell us what environmental impact concerns they might have, what issue areas, what particular resources, and again, what mitigation measures would reduce impacts, what alternatives they think we should analyze, and basically it's similar but just at the project level.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, just the clarification for people.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question because the EIR for the general plan this is at the tail end of that process, but the NOP draft EIR for the farm, this is at the very beginning. So will there be multiple other options for the public to participate in the EIR for the farm project?
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Mayor through the mayor. This is the very beginning of the farm project process, and so this will be one of the first points of getting input. It's on the environmental stage, which, yes, we are wanting to do that environmental stage first and evaluate different alternatives early on. So this will be one of the first points. Probably the next point after that, after the scoping period and meeting, the next point would be when we put out a draft EIR, we'll ask for comments and we'll have another public meeting during that time. And then after the EIR process, we're expecting to also have an architectural review board meeting where people can give input on aesthetics, visual architecture. And then we will ultimately have a planning commission and a city council, because ultimately on that project, the city council will be the decision maker. And finally, if there is any change to the LCP or an appeal on the LCP, there could potentially be a hearing with the Coastal Commission. Jenna, do you think I captured everything? Did I miss anything?
Thank you, Mindy. Council members, through the mayor. I just wanted to clarify that specifically for Councilmember Mayor, your question about the development proposal for housing on the bluffs. This is what Mindy was talking about was really just the beginning of the public's ability to comment or be involved in the environmental process. But in addition to the environmental process, the city will also be going through its very standard development review process, of which CEQA and preparing an EIR is part of. But this is just the beginning of that public process. So there will be several more opportunities, and Mindy covered some of those in terms of the environmental document and compliance with CEQA.
Thank you.
A few questions or comments here. First of all, I think it'd be important if you wouldn't mind for staff presentations if we try to reduce our acronyms. I know for us it's easy, but I think since it's being televised, it would be in our advantage to try and reduce the amount of acronyms. Second question I have has to do with the Architecture Review Board. On that one, previously we used to have recommendation for specific positions to be filled by professionals. We had one landscaper, we had one architect, we had one that was a general contractor. I don't know if those guidelines are still being sought, but if that is the case, I believe Richard is our only architect. Is that correct?
I know Amy Blakemore is a landscape architect.
Correct.
Yeah.
But anyways, if we're going to be putting the question out there, we may want to seek a like for like. If we're missing an architect, we probably want to replace it with an architect, be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do think that brings up a good point. Do we know what those requirements are to fill the ARB committee? And I'll add on a question to that, which is, do we have a timeline in terms of filling that vacancy? I don't know that if it's, we might have a timeline. I just don't know if it's within our best interest to leave it open-ended if we want to get that filled.
So Mayor, I can answer that question. So far we've received 2 applications for the open ARB position, and I've heard of 2 other interested people who haven't submitted yet. And as far as the qualifications, let me bring that up. Because it's qualifications of the ARB is mentioned in the municipal code, spelled out there. It says consists of 5 members with the qualifications for membership being residency within the city, and consists of a mix of lay and professional citizens skilled in the interpretation of architectural and landscape drawings and ability to evaluate the effects of proposed development upon surrounding areas.
So there isn't a specific, we don't need a certain number. We just need some experience or a variety of experience.
That's correct.
Okay.
In the 25, 30 years, I believe we've always gone with the guidelines of having a landscaper, a construction general contractor, and an architect. So it seemed to work that way. I would have some concerns if it was to change substantially.
It sounds as though in order to change it, you might want to, do you want to make a motion or a recommendation that it be updated? It sounds like maybe it was followed informally, but if it's not currently in the CMC, or is that what you said? I'm sorry.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so if it's not in the CMC, it sounds like we might want to input that in there formally or explore it.
I'd like to hear from legal staff on that one, because it may be changing a procedure that we have applications coming in currently.
Okay.
But it may be something
Yeah.
we want to look at the long run as far as policies. But again, we follow that guideline for over 30 years, so.
Yeah, I was just going to say from a logistic standpoint, I'll let Jenna touch on the legal aspects of it. I mean, ultimately, your council has the decision on whether to approve or not to approve. We'll do our best to try to get as many applicants as possible, so your council has those options to be able to choose. And then and if we're unable to find someone that maybe suits the majority of the council's hopes for different positions, you know, the staff can continue to look to recruit for those positions. And so, you know, from a logistic standpoint, that's what we would do, and then ultimately you all would have that decision on whether to approve or not to approve any of the applicants. And Jenna, I don't know from a legal standpoint if you had anything additional.
Councilmember Nomura, through the mayor, my only comment was that tonight's meeting, we're not looking for a motion on this particular issue since it wasn't agendized. So I think we're happy to take back any direction to bring back something at a future meeting for consideration. It's just, it's outside of tonight's agenda.
Correct,
So
correct.
thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that one. I think we're good going forward the way we are. One thing for the council to be aware of is the fact that these are actually appointed each year. So we do have the purview to go through a process and change it during the close of each year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I do want to circle back to potentially including a timeline. Is that something that staff has explored? And then, of course, I don't know what the rest of the council thinks on that, but it might urge additional applicants to apply.
So I was going to plan on keeping it open for a little bit longer, just to see if we get any more further applications in.
Are you thinking maybe a month or?
At least a month, yeah, at least a month.
Okay, maybe you can let us know when that timeline is, so that in case, I'm sure we can all support with potentially referring people or spreading the word, but having a timeline might be helpful for us, or I find it helpful.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
And a quick question just for anyone who's listening, but also to refresh my memory is these advisory boards, we appoint them in 2027 in January, is that correct? So
that's correct,
if we were to put maybe like a little more of an expedient timeline on filling this position, with the understanding that if somebody comes in, we could tell them that they have the opportunity in 6 months to come back. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think it's important that we have a member that can but we could have 2-2 ties and then just, keep going without anything getting resolved. So I think that we should fill the position. And, if we can get an architect, that's fine, but if we can't, maybe we can get one next year. It'd also be interesting maybe if we're interested in this architectural experience thing, is to see look again at the qualifications of the people that are on there. We may have some people that are kind of like quasi-experienced, I don't know.
Yeah, Mayor, I just conferred with Brian, and for as far as a deadline, we're happy to do a deadline of June 30th. And so we'll put that out there that people can submit before June 30th, and you all can use that for your recruitment purposes. And then also to Councilmember Mayor's point, if we miss anybody, it's 6 months until we reappoint, and they'll have another opportunity.
Great. Okay, thank you. Doesn't look like we have any more questions for you, Mindy. Appreciate your report.
And so just some other city community updates. So the host season began this past weekend, host being our group of volunteers that are out on Linden helping folks as visitors. And this program will continue through Labor Day weekend. It was established in 2009 and plays that important role in welcoming our visitors to the community by providing information on city programs that we have available, local attractions, events, dining, transportation, and other visitor resources. This program is led by Julissa Briones, who happens to be in our crowd. So if we have any detailed questions about that, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. Due to limited volunteer availability, however, the kiosk will be operating Saturdays and Sundays this season. Also for our Cycle Mania Carp Family Ride on May 9th, the Sustainability Environmental Division hosted its annual Cycle Mania event with the Carp Family Ride. This is made possible through a $250 mini grant from Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, or SBCAG as it's often referred to. The event was a tremendous success with full participant capacity of 48 attendees, including community members, city representatives, and volunteers. And there's a lot more information here and great pictures, and encourage the public to read more detail in the report. And finally, I'll just end with Summer Bingo Bash is coming up. So join Age Well for an hour bingo on Thursday, June 4th from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Veterans Hall Meeting Room. Enjoy exciting games and share the fun and community spirit. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
Yeah, about the host program. So it sounds like there aren't as many volunteers as we would like to be able to have those Friday hours too. Can you just go over how people volunteer, what the timing expectations are, and that type of thing? I don't know if that might be something Julissa can speak to.
Yes, thank you. Vice Mayor Solorson will have Julissa Briones answer those.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, through the Mayor. So our host program did kick off this past weekend, but we have seen a decline in the number of volunteers that are available and to volunteer on the weekends. So what we did this year was we hosted a host meet and greet a couple of weeks ago to try to recruit more members. We got a couple from there. But overall, we are seeing kind of a decline in the amount of folks that are available to volunteer. So for the first 4 weeks of the season, we decided to do Saturdays and Sundays for the season, for the first 4 weeks. And then hopefully we can add on Fridays. That's kind of the ideal plan. But we would need more volunteers. We do meet every first Wednesday of every month here in Chambers from 3 to 4:30 p.m. And all are welcome. We go over program updates, and then we also host signups as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Quick question for you, Julissa. How many volunteers do we have? How many are we?
We have about 52 on the roster.
Okay, and then how many are listed on Saturday and Sunday, just to get a sense of?
So it kind of depends. every week we count the number of visitors that we have, and then we compare it to past years as well. So on weekends that we know we're going to have more visitors likely in the area, then we up the amount of volunteers that we have at the kiosk. But it's usually between 2 and 3 volunteers, and then they serve for about 2-hour increments at a time.
Oh, okay, so maybe it starts from like 12 to
From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. usually.
10 to 4. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Nope, no other questions. And I'd like to just say I participated in the Cyclemania, and it was really, I was so impressed by how staff organized the many riders, because it was chaotic, but good chaotic. I was just really impressed with city staff and how they made sure everyone stayed safe. That was really their first priority. And second priority, I think, was just making sure everyone had fun, and I think that they achieved both those things. So it was great. We will now open up public we will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips for the city manager report. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
We do, Mayor. We have, never mind.
Okay. No
public comment for
Great.
this item.
So I will close public comment for the city manager's report, and we will move on to the public comment on matters not on the agenda. And we have one speaker slip for Donna. Welcome.
Yes, good evening. I'm Donna Treelor, 5248 El Caro Lane, and I'm here to talk about street maintenance, or actually the lack thereof. Specifically, El Caro Lane from the 5000 to the 5400 block. This is a major thoroughfare in our town, and we have just between the 5000 to the 5,000 to 5,200 block, we have 3 venues. We have El Caro Park, we have the Catalino Elementary School, and we have the St. Joseph's Catholic Church. This is a lot of traffic. I estimate at least a day during the week, 200 at least car and bicycle trips, and way many more than that on the weekends, especially when there's games at El Caro Park. The road condition there is almost gone. It's down to dirt in a few places. There's huge potholes. We have a lot of kids riding their bicycles to school coming through there, not to mention what it does to your car alignment. It's very concerning. It seems like it's a big safety issue. I started calling the city about 2 months ago and never had a return call after numerous calls. And finally this week, I called one more time and I got a return call. And they said there is no budget for road maintenance and that I should talk to the city council. So here I am. I did go on the website for the city, and they actually have a graph of all the roads in town, and they're color-coded by the condition of the road. The worst condition is something called failed. That's El Caro Lane. It's red, it's failed. That's not a secret. If you have not driven there, I implore you to drive down there and see the condition. But I think one of the main objectives of the council should be the health and safety of the community. And this is definitely a safety issue. So thank you for your consideration. Please drive over there.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Treelor. Appreciate that. Next, we have Mr. George Layton. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is George Layton, and I live in Carpinteria. From time to time, people speak to you from this podium urging that you spend public money in some particular way or other. This is another one of those occasions. You should have a packet of emails and photos about the road construction at Linden Avenue and Carpinteria Avenue. This is a small deal compared to whatever else you have to deal with. But I ask that the city spend a little money to add highlight striping to mark the newly constructed island on Linden Avenue. The island forces traffic to the left. And the end of the island is a little hard to see, particularly in unfavorable lighting conditions, resulting in the island getting run into. One of the photos in your packet shows a driver's eye view showing the right lane edge stripe running towards the island. And the other photo shows a sample of scuff marks that appear from time to time. The scuff marks appeared the first day that road was reopened. We locals have learned to keep a little bit to the left, even though the lane narrows at that point and oncoming traffic. It gets a little close, but visitors who are unfamiliar with that area may be in a little trouble there. The suggested red and white alternating stripes on the bulb out by Tyler's Donuts may be non-standard, but so what? The traffic standards, called the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, it's a big book, don't specify a standard way of marking the hazard. But the existing curb markings design will still increase public safety, even though it's not standard. Removing the existing markings by Tyler's Donuts, as has been suggested, is going backwards in safety. Please leave the existing markings in place and add similar markings to the new island.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Rogelio Delgado.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council members. I have 4 points to make. Number one, if the sales tax is put on the ballot on November, please provide information more often, like every meeting. As I see it now, it's like a coin toss, a 50-50. How do you balance your budget? We need a healthy budget. Why this crisis didn't happen overnight? Santa Barbara adjusted its budget. They were supposed to lay off 343 employees. They ended up sending notices to 83. Still, that's bad. I hope that we can avoid that. Point number two, talking about the budget. This is the information needed to try to understand the city's budget. Number one, property tax projection. Number two, city's health and welfare increases of employees. Number three, cost of living increases. Number four, salary increases. Number five, major expenditures. Number six, reserves information. How much money do you have available as reserves as of today? Number seven, the general fund. We need to understand it, really understand it. And what's the city's remedy? Is that it? That's what I have, 18 seconds? Okay, that's fine. All right. So that's it then. I'll continue next time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Delgado. I do not have any other speaker slips. Is there anyone?
Mayor, these green slips are for number 12.
Okay, great. So do we have anyone via Zoom?
We do, Mayor. Andy Patrick. Andy, go ahead. Andy? Looks like you unmuted yourself. Andy, are you there? And, oh. Andy? Well, looks like he's having some difficulties. He's unmuted, but we can't hear him.
Okay, I'll look to Jenna, but we can't hear potential
Hello?
speaker. There we go.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Mr. Patrick.
Yes,
Are you ready for public comment, for general public comment? We're ready to hear you.
yes, I'm sorry, thank you. So, Mayor, council members, city manager, I want to begin by saying something very sincere, and that is that really congratulations on the operational efficiency that you and your staff have brought to the city. I know that kind of work is hard. It's often invisible. It requires discipline, patience, competence. And I also want to acknowledge the many citizens who have stayed engaged, that have shown up, that have served on committees, written letters, attended meetings, and cared enough to keep participating. I would say that CARP has no shortage of people who care, but that's actually why I'm here tonight, because operational efficiency is not the same as vision. Civic engagement is not the same as a shared direction. And a city can be well managed, full of very good people, of which you are, and still lose its soul. And this is my concern. CARP is living in a moment when outside attention can distort a small town's sense of itself. I mean, a flattering article such as the one that just appeared in the New York Times, growing visitor interest, Airbnb pressures, second home money, tourism, blah, 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 right? It makes wealthier and flashier places, seem, I don't know, chosen, discovered, even elevated, and that's what we're becoming, it seems. But that kind of attention is dangerous if we do not know who we are. And the question is not whether CARP becomes more known. The question is known for what? And, I've only been here for 6 years, so I defer to many people that have been here much longer. But I came here for a specific reason, and quite honestly, now I'm becoming a little bit lost. Like, I don't know, are we a beach brand now? Are we a weekend destination? Are we optimized for visitors? Is this a small town that's quietly hollowed out by market forces? Or are we still committed to being a real community? I mean, I hear these wonderful stories, and I know they are real, such as what the people that have talked here tonight. I mean, they're families and elders and young people, artists, teachers, service workers, et cetera, that have been here a long time doing real work, and I bow to them. I've spent a lot of time in my career leading organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, like about 12 of them. And I've learned that execution can outpace articulation, meaning that you can run efficient meetings, manage budgets, process applications, complete studies, blah, 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 and still lack a cohesive and connected vision for the future. And I've also raised millions of dollars over the years, about 8 million, something like that. And one thing I know is this: people do not invest in operations alone. They invest in vision. They invest in a compelling sense of purpose, of direction, of possibility. And I know that you have that in your hearts. I know that. But I need to hear it more because I don't see it. What I see right now is a lot of operational, like, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. It's check boxes. So if the city is facing budget pressure and deficits and hard financial choices, then I would suggest that vision is not a luxury.
Mr. Patrick, you're over time. If you'd like to wrap up in the next 10 seconds.
All right. All I want to say is that, we're missing the soul. Please, please defend the soul of CARP. Don't just repair streets, which I know is important, but make sure to defend the soul of who we are. Otherwise, we're just going to become another Ojai or whatever else.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Bye.
And then, Mayor, we have one more Zoom speaker, Lorraine McIntyre. Lorraine, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. It's Lorraine McIntyre here. I just wanted to make a public comment about some of the road repairs and the budget, just to make people aware that when they ask the city to repair roads, at the same time, they have to understand that if they voted no on Prop 218, they voted for poor roads, basically, because the assessment district for landscape maintenance and the berm districts are based off of mid-90 pricing. And so a lot of the operating budget is being diverted to maintain that. And if they voted no on Prop 218, then they may have to suffer with poor roads for a little while longer. So I just wanted to thank the city for trying to get that ballot across to the community the best that they could. And I'm disappointed that, that it was voted down. So thank you, city manager and staff, for trying to do the best they can with the rising prices and managing the budget the way it is.
Thank you for your comments.
And Mayor, that concludes Zoom comment.
I will close public comment. And I just want to follow up on two items that I heard from speakers. One of them is if there's consensus from the rest of the council, if we can get a follow-up in terms of the request of the curb. It sounds like there were some lights put on there, or reflective lights, but if there could be some rationale in terms of whether or not it could be painted similar to the other curb that they have as an example in here. Is that something that the rest of the council would like?
I mean, I wouldn't mind, some context maybe as to why, why the choices was made to do it however it's done right now. So, because I can imagine my only concern would be that we might get a lot of people coming in who want to have specific type of striping or reflection on various points. So I want to make sure that we understand the process for how that's decided.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Solorzano, through the mayor, happy to look into that. It's not something I'm prepared to respond to this evening, but can get with our Public Works team and come back with some information at our next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Also comment on that same one. I don't know if the coloring is going to make that much of a difference. We may want to take a look at a safety pole, something like that instead, because you won't see it if there's a car in front of you.
Okay.
Just something to think about, but again, I leave that up to Public Works. They'll figure it out.
And then another circle back I want to go to is our first speaker, Mrs. Treelor, that brought up the pavement and that there not being any dollars in the budget. I do want to assure the public that this is definitely on council's radar, staff's radar, and we're always looking at ways to pave our roads. But I want to give staff an opportunity to provide a more eloquent response, and as opposed to there's no money. And hopefully speak to what our strategies are in terms of revenue generation and whatnot.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you for that opportunity. Yeah, it's definitely something that is difficult. As some, I think, commenters had mentioned, this isn't something that happened overnight. And as our former city manager, Dave Derflinger, had explained to me during his time here, we had many roads that were paved at the same time, and all of those roads are kind of coming to the end of their useful life around the same time. When, as part of just some history, when Measure X was originally passed, part of that promise, in addition to the library, was an investment in roads. And with that, the city did a $6.5 million streets and roads project a couple years ago. The original plan was that those roads were done in a certain zone, and it was going to rotate through, I think, 4 different zones, and the city was going to begin repairing those roads. Around that same time is when we saw sort of the explosion of our public safety costs. I think over like a 4-year period, it was something like 61%. And then also just a lot of the, construction things. And so when we got around to what is now infamously known as the 2023 pavement project in 2026, we are still looking to get to that. So what staff has been doing is exploring ways where we can piggyback on county projects and to hopefully decrease some of the mobilization costs that come with projects. You know, that's been one of the issues with us is what I hear a lot is, well, why don't we just do, a smaller project? And oftentimes, as you lose that economies of scale, we're already a smaller project, even our large projects are small projects relatively. And so when we decrease those, sometimes we lose the economies of scale that we have, and then the mobilization cost doesn't decrease. So that's why we're looking for creative solutions, including even potentially partnering with the city of Santa Barbara. So we're looking at creative ways to get roads done by either piggybacking onto existing contracts, working with our neighbors, and then things like our revenue measure, as mentioned by also one of the public commenters. Many of those things are helping just to preserve what it is we have so that we can begin working on sort of digging ourselves out of this hole and creating the necessary reserve funds that we need for the future, which also ties into the comment about the vision. And so we were all very aware of this and are at this point in time trying to sort of plug these holes while we work on these issues. As you know, it's been a difficult one, but it's definitely on our radar, and we are working towards it.
Great, thank you. Can I ask a follow-up? Yes. Or I think one thing that's helpful is later on in this agenda, we're going to be talking about the CIP projects that are currently our priorities right now. And I think of all of those, they have funding from various sources, like whether it's grants or state or federal funding. And I know one of the things we've talked about before is that it's very hard to find funding for pavement, right? That's something that generally isn't, it's not something that we've qualified for as a city for some of those awards. And so I think that's sometimes people might see that there are projects that are going forward, but streets are not being paved. And I think it's important for us to talk about the reason for that, which is that a lot of the funds the city gets are for specific types of projects and can't just be taken from one thing and put into roads as much as we would want to. So I'm looking forward when we get to that CIP agenda item, we can talk more about that and about what the limitations are when we do have projects, why we choose some and not others.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Solorzano, thank you for making that point. And then also on June 8th, we'll be back here with our mid-cycle adjustments. And I heard some comments earlier about wanting to know where we're at right now with various accounts and reserves and staffing. All of that is currently available online through our budget. This council also approved some mid-year adjustments about 6 months ago where we go back and sort of recalibrate where we're at. We're looking to do that again now at the middle of our two-year budget here coming up at our next meeting as well. And we'll be going over many of those items.
Thank you. I'd like to just check in with the rest of the council if there's any other follow-up questions or comments. Okay, so we will now move on to the consent calendar, and I will open up public comment for the consent calendar. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no Zoom speakers.
I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held May 11th, 2026, to receive and file the warrant register for the period of May 4th through May 15th, 2026, pursuant to the Carpinteria Municipal Code, Section 2.08.150F, to receive and file the report on contracts executed by the city manager for the period of April 7th through May 4th, 2026, and to adopt ordinance number 797, second reading, amending chapter 2.08 of the Carpinteria Municipal Code to better define the city manager's authority to sign written contracts, update the list of city officers who are authorized to sign warrants, and remove the requirement of a list of all instruments signed by the city clerk, requiring the city seal to be presented to the city council for their information.
We have a first. We have a second.
A second, yep.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mayer?
Aye.
Councilmember Nomura?
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Solorzano?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
And Mayor Alarcon?
Aye. And we will now move on to administrative matters. Item number 7, which is letter of support for the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County and the California Food Bank Delivery Alliance's request for $30 million state budget allocation.
And Mayor, I will take this opportunity to recuse myself as I serve on the board of the Santa Barbara County Food Bank.
That's great. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is to request to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County and the California Food Bank Delivery Alliance's request for $30 million in state funding to sustain and expand home delivery nutrition programs. Since 2024, the city has partnered with the Food Bank through their older adult nutrition program, providing food distribution and home delivery services for Carpinteria seniors, with more than 3,200 duplicated participants served to date. Currently, the food bank distributes food twice a month at the Veterans Memorial Hall as part of our Age Well programming. Approval of the letter would not commit the city to any financial obligation, but would demonstrate support for programs that help address food insecurity for older adults and vulnerable residents. That concludes my staff report. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, seeing no questions, I will open up public comment. I do not have any. Yes, Mr. Delgado, welcome. Again.
Thank you, Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. I think that when you hear the Santa Barbara Food Bank, just a few words, but it means a world to people. Compare this current crisis, probably like 70–80% of the crisis back in 2008. Money is tight, regardless of income. If you go to, let's say, the Unity shop in Santa Barbara, the statistics says that 2/3 are Hispanic, but I would say half and half. You can go and check by yourselves every day. And families currently need food. And the government is making it tougher. Even our governor, with its proposed budget, it's not. It's making it harder for people to qualify because of the budget crisis, and it's just that people are hungry. Money is tight. Jobs are not reliable. I've seen people get laid off because they're young, and I've seen people get laid off because they're old. That's our current situation. And just to get a complete idea, just go to the Unity shop any single day and check. You see, basically, I would say half and half, 50%. And so just to understand the power of those words, Santa Barbara Food Bank, where that's the hope of a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other speaker slips? I don't have any on my end, just making sure.
Mayor, no other further speaker slips and no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for any questions and or a motion.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support for the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County and the California Food Bank Delivery Alliance's request for a $30 million state budget allocation to sustain and expand home delivery programs in California.
And I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Or any opposed, I should ask. None. Motion passes.
A quick comment on that one. I would like to commend the Santa Barbara County Food Bank because of the work they've done. Some people that were here, actually, we had to suffer through it, and if it weren't for our working directly with them during the COVID time when we were shut down, we wouldn't be able to feed all the families that we had in this one. So I'd like to commend them because the farther we get away from that pandemic time, the more people will probably not realize how much they actually helped us out. They fed every family literally for weeks.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. We will now move on. Oh, we will wait until Vice Mayor. Welcome. Move on to public hearing, item number 8, which is resolution number 6468 concerning the continuation of street lighting district number 1 for fiscal year 2026-2027.
All right. Good evening, Council. So the street lighting district number 1 was established in 1977 to fund the operations and maintenance of the city's street lighting system. It's funded through an allocated share of property tax. And for fiscal year 26-27, the revenues are projected around $277,000, and expenditures are projected at $220,000. This would result in a projected fund balance of $716,000 come June 30th, 2027. On March 23rd, 2026, the City Council adopted Resolution 6440, ordering the status and projections for the district for the coming fiscal year 26-27. On April 27th, 2026, the City Council adopted Resolution 6451 and 6452, as shown as Attachment A in your staff reports. This accepted the report of the city engineer and set the matter for public hearing today, May 26, 2026. The purpose of this agenda item is to open the public hearing, receive any testimony and/or protest concerning the district, close the public hearing, and adopt Resolution 6468, as shown in Attachment B of your staff report, concerning the continuation for the district for fiscal year 26-27. And that concludes your report.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Just one quick clarifying question. Just for the public, so this one is called the Street Lighting District, and then the next one we're going to talk about is the Lighting, Landscaping, and Right-of-Way Improvement District. Can you talk about how the funds for this one, the street lighting, are used in the community?
Through the mayor, so there is overlap between District 1, the one we're discussing, and District 3. Because District 1 covers the lighting cost, which is usually the utility charge, the maintenance of the street lighting infrastructure, or in some cases, capital improvement projects that introduce new lighting. This district funds that in full, and it's excluded from District 3.
Got it. Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 6468 as read by title only.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. We will now move on to item number 9, which is resolution number 6469 concerning the continuation of lighting, landscaping, and right-of-way improvement district number 3 for fiscal year 2026-2027.
The Lighting, Landscaping, Right-of-Way District, number 3, was formed in 1985. The district provides funding for maintenance of right-of-way, including curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and trees. And the district's income stream is primarily derived from a fixed dollar assessment on properties as shown in Attachment B of your staff report. The district's projected annual revenue is approximately $200,000, which is fixed due to Proposition 218 since 1997. So for fiscal year 26-27, the expenditures are estimated at $662,000, which indicates a $462,000 subsidy from Measure X to fully balance the district fund. On March 23rd, the City Council adopted Resolution 6441, ordering the report and the status and projections for the district. On April 27th, the City Council adopted Resolution 6453 and 6534, accepting the report of the city engineer and setting the matter for a public hearing on May 26th. The purpose of this agenda item is to open the public hearing, receive any testimony and/or protests concerning the continuation of the district, close the public hearing, and adopt Resolution 6469 as shown as Attachment C. concerning the continuation for fiscal year 26-27. And that concludes the report.
Do we have questions from council?
Yeah, so currently it looks like there's $462,350 subsidy, like you mentioned, from Measure X funds that we need in order to backfill this account, right? So going forward, is that an amount that's going to likely go up more just with inflationary costs, or is it something that is going to cap out at any point?
Through the mayor, it would just be speculation, but based on trends, I would assume it would go up at least in a consistent manner with inflationary values, which are typically around 3%.
Okay.
Historically.
All right. And this was a assessment district that the public commenter had referenced in her comments, I believe.
That is correct, one of them.
Great. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, just for also clarification in terms of inflationary index, this particular district, benefit assessment district fund, is modified through the consumer price index. So there is an inflationary factor that goes into this. Oh, that's PBI, excuse me. Scratch that. That is the next assessment district. Thank you.
I will just add that that in terms of the number, like currently, the number that people are seeing now versus maybe some of the numbers that they saw during the assessment district process might vary because there's already reduced service levels built into the current number, and the number that was shown related to the assessment districts was with us operating and taking care of all of our sidewalks and various issues. And so there is some CPI issues, and then there is also adjustments that are made by deferred maintenance or reduced, service levels and things like that. So it's not just like a guaranteed certain trajectory, but we have pretty much limited, as much as we could.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have any via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 6469 as read by title only.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. We will move on to item number 10, which is resolution number 6470 concerning the continuation of parking and business improvement area assessment district number 4 for fiscal year 2026-2027.
The Parking Business Improvement Area Assessment District was formed in September 1986 to enhance what is commonly known as the Downtown T. This has been accomplished through parking improvements, advertising and promotions, and increased public services such as restroom and sidewalk cleanings. The total revenue for the district is projected to be approximately $16,500 for fiscal year 26-27 and is proposed to support promotion, maintenance, and community activities within the district. As recommended by the Downtown T Business Advisory Board, the fund projection reflects an increase in the annual assessment from $126.45 to $130.75, which is consistent with the 3.4% March-to-March Consumer Price Index. No special parking assessment fees are proposed for fiscal year 26-27, as all prior parking-related assessments have been paid in full. On March 24th, the City Council adopted Resolution 6442, ordering a report on the status and projections of the district for fiscal year 26-27. On April 27th, the City Council adopted Resolution 6455 and 6456 as provided in Attachment B. This accepted the annual report and scheduled a public hearing for May 26th in order to consider the continuation of the district for fiscal year 26-27. Again, the purpose of this agenda item is to open the public hearing, receive any testimony and/or protests concerning the continuation of the district, close the public hearing, and adopt Resolution 6470 concerning the continuation for the district, including establishing the annual general benefit or the annual general business assessment amount of $130.75 for fiscal year 26-27. And that concludes the report.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
So the DTBAB uses those funds for its programming, like the parades and the chalk walk and different things like that. That's correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a few different promotional activities they do, including the parades, chalk walk, sponsorship of Halloween trick-or-treating in the downtown T, and projects such as promotional videos and district maps.
And then are there any, I think you staff that committee, if I'm correct. Are there any emerging priorities or changing target areas that they're looking at going forward?
I think a future outlook includes improving the lighting in the downtown T to feature holiday lighting and seasonal lighting. That's more aesthetically based rather than functionality.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 6470 as read by title only.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. We will be moving on to item number 11, which is resolution number 6471 concerning the continuation of assessment district number 5 for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Assessment District Number 5 for the Winter Protection Burn Program was formed in 1992 to fund a sand burn facility as a measure of shoreline protection for Carpinteria City Beach and the immediately adjacent properties. The annual district revenue is $20,300, which has remained fixed since 1997 as the district is subject to Proposition 218 restrictions. For fiscal year 26-27, the projected direct cost of the winter burn program is estimated at $52,000, and a general fund contribution of approximately $31,100 would be required to fully balance the district. Again, on March 23rd, the City Council adopted Resolution 6443, ordering the report of the status and projections for the district. And then on April 27th, the City Council adopted Resolution 6457, accepting the report and setting the matter for public hearing. The purpose of this agenda item is to set that meeting, or to open the public hearing, receive any testimony and/or protest concerning the continuation of the district, close the public hearing, and adopt Resolution 6471 concerning the continuation of the district for fiscal year 26-27. And that concludes the report.
Any questions from council? No questions. I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Once again, Mayor, we have no raised hands.
Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for any other questions and or a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 6471 as read by title only.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. We will now move on to other business, starting with item number 12, which is review of proposed transactions and use tax ballot language, community outreach, and public education plan.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, and community members. So tonight's item is intended to continue the City Council's discussion regarding potential long-term revenue strategies and to receive feedback and direction regarding proposed ballot language, as well as the community outreach and public education plan related to a potential transactions and use tax measure. As discussed during our meeting on April 13th, the city continues to face ongoing fiscal pressures driven by rising operational costs, increasing infrastructure needs, and revenue growth that has not kept pace with the cost of providing services. In addition, the recent failure of the Prop 218 assessment districts resulted in ongoing funding gap for maintenance-related services that must still continue to be provided using existing and limited resources. And then going just a little bit off script, because something I received just a couple days ago for the community just to know that the ways that we decide to address the issues that we're having fiscally is unique, I think, to every city, how they deal with it. But I did just want to reiterate, and I've shared this before, that the challenge itself is not unique to Carpinteria. And I saw that as I got my new public management magazine for this month. And this is from the International City County Managers Association and goes to every city and township in the nation. And the cover is the fiscal cliff. And it goes into different ways that cities are trying to address this. But I do just want to, I don't know that it gives any assurance or comfort, but that this is not something that's unique to us. I mean, cities are struggling to deal with the rising cost of operations, and how we choose to deal with that will be unique to us. Moving on, so the city also continues to experience significant infrastructure obligations, including approximately $24 million in deferred pavement maintenance, in addition to deferred facility and capital improvement needs throughout the community. At our April 13th meeting, the City Council received the HDL Revenue Enhancement Opportunities Report and directed staff to further evaluate a transactions and use tax measure, while also initiating community outreach and public education efforts. And I'd like to direct the public to that staff report on April 13th. I know there'd been questions about different opportunities that the council had, and those were presented at that time. Based on this direction received, prior voter research that the city conducted, analysis prepared by HDL, and Councilmember Namora, please don't ask me that acronym. I don't even know what HDL stands for, but it's the name of the company. And subsequent staff and legal review, staff has prepared proposed ballot language for council consideration tonight. The proposed measure is structured as a 0.25% transaction and use tax, which is estimated to generate approximately $700,000 annually in ongoing and locally controlled revenue. That additional tax would be approximately 25 cents on a $100 purchase or $6 on a $2,500 purchase. Certain purchases, including most groceries and prescription medications, are exempt under state law and would not be affected by this increase. The proposed ballot language focuses on maintaining core city services and infrastructure needs, including streets and sidewalks, public safety services, emergency preparedness, parks and public areas, homelessness response efforts, and youth and senior programs. The measure also includes accountability provisions such as audits and spending disclosure requirements. During that scientific polling that we went through, there was several priorities that were brought to the attention of city staff. Those listed were just among the top. So tonight, staff is seeking city council feedback regarding the proposed ballot language, including the overall structure of the measure and whether there are any revisions or priorities the council would like staff to further evaluate prior to returning with final ordinance language. So we're not looking to make any decisions this evening, just for feedback. In addition, staff is also seeking feedback regarding the proposed community outreach and public education plan. The purpose of the outreach effort is twofold. First, to ensure the community receives clear, factual, and accessible information regarding the city's fiscal condition, which we heard earlier this evening, as well as infrastructure needs and the proposed measure. Second, to provide meaningful opportunities for the city to receive feedback from residents, businesses, stakeholders, and community organizations regarding community priorities and concerns. This outreach effort is proposed to include stakeholder meetings, community presentations. We have one scheduled this Thursday, town halls, informational mailers, newsletters, digital communications. People might have started receiving ads and via social media this last weekend, and ongoing public engagement efforts through the summer and fall. If directed by the City Council tonight, staff anticipates returning at our next meeting with proposed ordinance language and a final ballot package for council consideration in advance of the required election deadlines. So this concludes my presentation, and staff is available for questions and feedback from the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Any questions from council?
Yeah, just one to start off with is, can staff help explain the sales tax capacity issue? Because that's something that seems compelling to me. My understanding is that the sales tax can only be raised to a certain point, and this 0.25 is the amount of space we have left, but there are also other entities that can raise it that exact amount, and the funds would then go to another entity like the county or a special district, and so people would have to pay this 0.25%. It just wouldn't come to city services. Can you talk about what that process is like?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Solorzano, thank you for that question. So the cap for our region is 9.25. We are at 9%, so that 0.25 is the maximum that we could go up without some sort of state legislation. And there are some regions that have done those things, but currently it's 9.25. And yes, somebody like the county could go out and do their own tax measure and would hit that cap, and then that would prevent the city from doing the same without some sort of state legislation. And so this revenue measure, if passed now, would just ensure, as stated, that those monies go to the city.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, so if the community ultimately supports this, what are the city's plans to communicate back how the funding is being utilized by the city? Because I'm sure people want to know, and I like how the ballot language, it talks about some of the things that the money will go to, but I think it'll be important to make sure the community is aware of where that money is going if they choose to support it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Solorzano. Great question. Vice Mayor Solorzano, thank you for that question. So one of the things that our city attorney wanted to remind me is, you know, this is a general tax, not a special tax. I know that there's been some concern about that because folks, you know, rightfully want this money to go to some very specific places at this moment, namely streets. To do a special tax where money would just go to a single service would require a 2/3 voter approval and is usually much more difficult to pass. So this is a general revenue tax measure, and that means that it's a political decision, that of the council, how those funds are to be spent. That's why we've done the various polling on the priorities to know where those are. Now this $700,000 is, I don't think we've ever tried to portray this as a solution. It's really about keeping us from falling further backwards, and those priorities that are listed, I imagine, are those that the council would seek to preserve, as we will also be proposing, you know, service reductions and cuts at our next meeting on the 8th. The programs that we seek to preserve will be those that are listed there, where the council will take those available discretionary funds and ensure that those programs are sustained. This will contrast quite drastically to the last Measure X revenue measure, which was 4 or 5 times as much and included things like development of a library and other things. This amount is really about ensuring that we preserve those services and priorities that the community values most.
And then just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, if I can jump in just quickly, Vice Mayor Solorzano, through the mayor, I think one of the other benefits of having a general tax is that you can change what that money goes towards, right? So as community needs, as community priorities change, as you get members of the community coming in and asking for different things, and you see that priorities are changing, you can change where that money goes as well. And so that's one of the biggest benefits of having a general tax.
Got it. And then just my last question is in terms of outreach. So you mentioned some of the things that the city's going to be doing. How is that outreach going to reach people who don't necessarily show up to meetings or you know, follow along in the Coastal View? Just some of the communities like seniors or Spanish speakers. How will they be reached by our outreach?
Thank you again for that question. And our city attorney, again, being here, will know that we don't do any targeted, you know, outreach, you know, or advocacy. But for our outreach, for example, our mailers went to every single postal address in the city. We are also taking Spanish translated versions and taking them to very strategic places within the community. And then, you mentioned not everybody goes to the town hall. We will be conducting those, but also going into, trying to go to where the residents are in their various neighborhoods. But mainly being able to get out some of that mailed information that goes to every postal address will at least ensure that everybody becomes aware of it and is able to inquire more information.
Great.
If I can jump in just on, in addition to Michael's comments, Vice Mayor Solorzano through the mayor. So yes, Michael did hit on the city is constrained from advocating for or against any measure. And so that makes it very difficult because there can be members of the community that in particular taxes come out and advocate against something. And this happens, all across public agencies across California. So it's not just our city or just cities in general, but it's all public agencies. They're constrained in that same way from advocating for or against measures. So what Michael was talking about was really public education and public information, and that is something that the city can do. So making sure that residents within the city understand that an important decision is coming up and that they understand where and how to vote and what their vote means, saying yes or no. And so that's really the focus of this public engagement effort that the city is undertaking right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So in the ballot language, and I'm going to ask for some clarity here, I'm still not understanding the difference between a special tax. I understand what a general tax is. I mean, I'm seeing the ballot language here, but what constitutes something as a special tax is just one item, two items that are listed, because when I read this ballot language, in my mind, I think of similar to the, right, if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. We know that the $700,000 won't be able to fix any one of these items that we have listed. And so in my mind, I'm wondering, do we strategically focus on maybe 5 items that we can commit to the community that we will attribute these dollars to? Because I do think that this is very broad, but I feel as though I don't know that we're going to be able to do all of this. With the $700,000 is so limited. This is one way to generate revenue, and it does preserve the Carpinteria community because that is the ultimate goal. And I want to ensure that we are really transparent with the community about that.
Mayor Alarcon, I will take the legal aspect of this question, and then I'll turn it over to Michael. So, thank you for having that up there. So legally speaking, you'll pay attention to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the 6th line, it says other general governmental purposes. And so the difference between a special and a general tax is, if we were to not even have that language in there, there's a potential that someone could say you can only use the money raised by this tax for those things that you put in the ballot language, right? And so it would have to be kept in a restricted fund, and it could not be used for other things. So for example, these are some of the city's priorities now, which city staff have determined through polling, right? Those are the things that through polling and going out and asking residents were the most important things for them to focus on. In 5 years or 10 years, that may change. And let's say I'm just going to make something up, that in 5 years, everyone in the community says, what I really want is a fireworks show. You couldn't use this money towards the fireworks show because it's specifically how it was adopted was specifically dedicated to only those things included in this ballot language. And so that's one of, as I mentioned in my last response, that's one of the biggest benefits of having a general tax is that money can change depending on what the community wants to use it for, right? And so you're correct that there are a lot of different items here, but the point is to include those items that the community has told us are the most important to them, but not limit it to those issues as well. Michael, do you have any additional?
No, Mayor, just to comment on the question about being able to do everything up there, I think that's why it's really important to make that distinction that this is really about stopping us from falling further behind and preserving what it is we have. So we are doing all of those things up there, and our goal is to continue doing those things at the levels that we are. Without additional funding, we will definitely have to start cutting or making reductions in these priority areas that the community's identified, just because we will have no choice but to do that. And so I guess I would say the message for the community is that we are doing these things, and these funds will help us to continue doing those while we also work on more long-term solutions.
I do see the benefits of this presented well, where the money's going to come from, how it's going to be spent. But my one question is, on this one, do we have a budget or estimated cost of what it's going to take to run this thing through the election process?
Yes, Councilmember Nomura. So that all of those items are part of our approved budget, including the public education contract, the cost of for the city clerk to get this on the on the ballot. So we do have some numbers I can get back to you on the exact totals, but they are part of our approved budget and listed in our programs. I would just need some time to research and gather and total those.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to see that one, just for transparency of the process.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I can get those to you.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on the mayor's point, and it's something that I've been really sort of like tumbling around in my mind here is, we've already brought up Measure X a couple times in this meeting. Measure X was a bigger chunk, but it had a pretty specific purpose, and it was something that people felt very strongly they could get behind. It had a measurable effect, and I feel a little concerned with the generalness here. I'm thinking also about Santa Barbara, who increased their sales tax by 0.5% in 2024 under the essential services, for the purpose of essential services. And when I think about, other government purposes, if we were to say, just in this meeting alone, we've talked about public safety costs going up 61%. From this specific staff report, it's a $300,000 increase in public safety from last year to this year. Even in another staff report, it said that, the bulk of Measure X funds are going to go to public safety. My question is why not be more specific about our language on this tax and say this is a public safety tax. The public safety costs have gone up 61% in the last 4 years. They're increasing by X amount every single year. It is unsustainable for a community of our size to put that into our general funds, and it has to be supported in a different way. Because that money is coming from our general fund, so it just alleviates the pressure on our general fund. Even though I understand that isn't earmarked for other governmental purposes, it is still creating space around our budget. And I think that's just like where I kind of come back to is wondering why we're not sort of approaching it in that direction. And this thought, I apologize for not having this conversation more flashed out, but it's just like, over the course of this meeting, it's come up like 5 times. I just keep writing it down every time public safety comes up and the costs to our city. And, we're an intentional community. We are the size that we are because we want it to be this way, and we're trying to grow in this very natural way. But the costs are outpacing us. That's just the facts. So, and I think it's hard for people to get on board with things when they're general, because it's like we all want 0.25% more of everything, right? I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know that I have a question. It's just this is sort of like a piggyback on what the mayor brought up, and it was sort of a specific thought.
Well, if I could just jump in really quick, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think where I've landed is in the ballot language, is the last one, which is support youth and senior programs, although I want to absolutely support youth and senior programs. But as you said, it's been the safety and the pavement that's come up multiple times. And I do think that's probably one of our top issues. And I think that could also send a message to the community that we're going to maybe support youth and senior programs through being committed through grants or other avenues. I think typically when cities or municipalities or counties are faced with having to cut, it's typically service programs that go first. And I think not necessarily massaging the language, but just more rationale for I appreciate it being broad, but I do think that what's urgent and maybe on everyone's mind really is the focus on like safety and pavement.
Yeah, I keep coming back to essential services. Like, what is it that the community expects? I mean, we had a public commenter who was like, operational efficiency is what the city does, and also wants visionary, which I think we provide. Measure X proves that. Like, this is the community that will support putting the library first and foremost, and that's not something that, what we want to say is like, we need to raise funds to protect essential services so that we can be the community that provides a library and builds a municipal pool.
Yeah, Councilmember Mayor, appreciate that feedback. And we have the perfect crowd to check me if I say the wrong number right now. But one of the things I'd like to point out is with that effort and all the excitement around the library and my quick Google check of the CVN or Coastal View News, that Measure X passed at a vote of 54.99%. A special tax would need to hit 67%. We would have been 12% shy, even with Measure X in the library, of passing that tax. And so the general tax, again, has the flexibility of being able to be used how you want. Politically, the promises and commitments towards, streets and things that we have, but that 67% bar is really, really high. Certainly something that I think we can look at. There's other, ways to address public safety. I think their community facility districts also very, very difficult. There's lots of other options, but from where we're at right now and this opportunity and this 0.25%, it would be very difficult to narrow it to specific things.
Well, and can I just ask then, so in terms of, it could end up being then that if by narrowing the language, we make it harder to get it passed, whereas having the broader language, we can still use those funds for public safety or for roads and pavements, but we don't have to have as high of a yes vote in order to get it approved. Is that correct?
Correct.
Sorry, I just want. Apologies. I would like to add something to your comment, Vice Mayor Solorzano, and in also response to Councilmember Mayor's questions and Mayor Alarcon's questions. And I was just asking Michael to jump in and support me on the back end here a little bit. One of your, and I apologize for not remembering, but one of your questions was talking specifically about really the success of Measure X, right? And how Measure X was really rallied around funding the library. And so I just wanted to read to you the actual ballot language from Measure X to show you that it's very, very similar to what you see on the screen here. And it really comes down to members of the community coming to the city council and getting their opinions out about what is really important for the use of these general funds. And that's why it's a general fund, right? Because people can come in from the community and say, these are our priorities. This is what we would like you, council, to vote to spend those funds on. But Measure X says, the ballot language was, to maintain sheriff's deputies, improve disaster preparedness response and communication during wildfires, floods, and other natural disasters, repair streets, potholes, protect local beaches, creeks from water pollution, prevent cuts to local library, senior and youth programs, address homelessness and other general services. Shall the measure be adopted to establish a 1.25% sales tax, providing an estimated blah, 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 right? So as you note, what we think of as Measure X as funding and helping fund the creation of our local library was one of the last items in that list there. And it really came down to the community rallying around and saying, this is very important for this specific thing. So that's one of the reasons that it's also important to have it broad so that different members of the community know that the funds may be spent on something that they really care about as well, but also to make sure that they can be spent on general services, and those general services can differ depending on who comes, and sways you one way or the other and says, this is what's really important in our community.
And just, I think to follow up on that, I mean, I think it's great that we have a visual for what you're saying right now in the audience, where these are the members. I mean, they're showing up again, just to talk, I'm sure, a little bit about Measure X and what it meant to them. And so that shows that community stake in raising sales tax, which I think is really important, because we don't want to be up here trying to convince people to raise the sales tax. We want to say, this is why we need this additional funding, and if you want to be part of this and part of supporting the city in this way, this is one way to do it. And that's why I appreciate the concerns with all the broad language, but I like the broad language because it gives the people more power to be able to come in droves and say how they want their taxes spent. And so they gives the public more control. And I think, for a city to be accountable to the public is really critical. And so I that's my appreciation for, I think, the broadness of the language.
When we went through the Measure X process of it, we specifically had ideas in mind of what we wanted to do, but going broad was the main reason is because of the percentages that we had to overcome. And if you look at the percentages of those that had to deal with specific restricted gifting or giving, very few of those passed. It's like 10% or less than 10%. Whereas with something like this that had general inclusions to it, we could then have a better chance of it passing, but also being non-restrictive, we were able to prioritize what the community wanted, and that's what made it the easiest part of it. By being broad, we could actually get feedback from what the community wanted and put the funds in there. If we went specifically with restricted, we probably wouldn't have had any funding. That's why we went that way. I agree with the process. I think what we have here is something that personally I would support.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say what Jenna said, but Measure X was a general measure. It was not a standalone thing. So
I appreciate your telling of it, and I appreciate the legal aspect of it. I really appreciate you reading the Measure X language to me also, so thank you.
Yeah, and I would, I think Measure X, it's difficult because you can't compare apples to apples. I think Measure X was very different than this current measure in the sense of where we had a strong community group, and they really kept us accountable to ensure that we funded the library. And I think the city of Carpinteria kept that promise. I think in where we are right now, we don't necessarily have a strong community group that is advocating for one specific thing. And so, although I can see the rationale for it being really broad, I also see the opposite end of just, if it were just a little less broad, I think that really sends a message to the community what are some of our top priorities. But that's just my perspective. So if
I could add, sorry, this is Amanda Clifford with Clifford Moss.
Oh, hi, welcome. We didn't realize you were there.
I'm here. I've been listening. I just wanted to, I hope it's all right. I just wanted to add in, on top of what Jenna had just shared, I think it's legal shared really important information. I think from a communication standpoint, this language was crafted in a way that, really encompasses what your community has told us are their priorities, what we've heard both in the early scientific polling and what we're continuing to hear in the communication and outreach. And so it's really aligned with the community's priorities. It is broad, but to the point of, what legal has shared, why that gives you flexibility, but it also, I think, really does represent from our communication standpoint, what your community, your voters have told you they want to see in a measure like this for it to be likely supported. Again, they get to make the ultimate decision should you choose to move forward. But I think this language really includes what they've told us are their priorities and what they want to see in a measure like this.
I appreciate that phrasing and again referencing the ballot, the outreach, the polling that was done, because I do think for a measure like this, it is important for as many people as possible to see themselves and their priorities, and to know that those priorities can be the city's funding priorities too. And so I appreciate being reminded that this language came from polling of residents in Carpinteria who said that these were the things that were most important to them, and having several different options. I appreciate how that gives a flexibility both to the public and to the city and how to move forward with this. So I thank you for sharing that feedback.
Would you mind just, and I had the opportunity to connect with Amanda earlier today. So Amanda, I think it would be helpful if we could talk about the polling. Could you let us know where we stood on these items that are in the ballot language with the polling that occurred in October?
Yeah, I mean, these were consistently the top kind of 5+ items from the polling. They were also what we're continuing to see as your top items in the mailer that was sent out to voters and community members, and is both available online and such. So that we're seeing this consistent top messaging in all of that, as these are the priorities from both the scientific survey that was conducted by FM3 Research, as well as the direct mail that we sent out from Clifford Moss.
So we have 8 items on here. So all 8, it sounds like, were top priorities on the polling out of how many items?
There was about 3 slides worth. It was probably close to 30 or 40 different items that were tested. And the good news, I mean, a lot of those items tested very high, but they were not the top priorities. These were among those that were testing in the 80%, 70% support levels, whereas others started to drop into the 60s and 50s and so forth. So these were those among the top items of a very, very long list of potential items in this process.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for either our contractor or for staff? Okay, I will open up public comment. Thank you. Gabby Edwards, welcome.
Mayor and council members, here we are. All this talk about Measure X brings back so many memories. Before we begin, we thought that the pothole people and the people who wanted more fields for their children were going to be part of the campaign, and it was the library people who showed up. So it wasn't as if it was a library measure, as you know, but that's how it turned out. So gathering a wider group of citizenry is going to be a challenge, I think, and the biggest challenge probably, because once they get together, I mean, we have given you've seen all of the packet. For the record, and I brought extras if anybody else is interested. It's the good thing about being a hoarder. I had all this stuff in the garage, and it's fabulous stuff. Jean and I were the sort of chairs, because we were chairs of the Friends at that time, but neither of us had ever been part of a campaign. So we are not speaking for ourselves in telling this amazing story about Measure X, but in fact highlighting the amazing people who participated. A tiny group with a tiny amount of money, and we passed it. So here we go. To the Carpinteria City Council and city staff. The Friends of the Library board members are well aware that the city is facing some tough budget decisions, and we hope that the City Council will not reduce support of our library, which is doing such impactful work in the community. I want to pause and say, if he wants to see vision and soul, I invite Mr. Patrick to come hang out at the library. Though the library will cost the city about $700,000 to operate in fiscal year 26-27, it is also the primary reason the city will generate $4 million in Measure X revenue for the same year. It seems timely to remind our council and our community that without library activism, there would likely be no Measure X today. The council's recent decision to pursue a small sales tax increase makes our story even more timely. For the record, here's how Measure X came to be. In November 2017, concerned about the lack of adequate funds for deferred maintenance of streets and parks and the increasing costs of law enforcement, as well as library services, emergency planning, and other vital programs, the Carpinteria City Council initiated a study of a possible revenue solution. Meanwhile, the Carpinteria Library staff and the Friends of the Carpinteria Library Board, along with other Santa Barbara branches, library branches, were facing enormous administrative charges and staff cutbacks imposed by the new Santa Barbara Library Director.
After deliberation, the City Council Finance Committee considered a sales tax the least burdensome to residents, as it would be shared with thousands of tourists who shop in our town. Hired by the city in early 2018, a local consultant conducted a telephone polling study, which concluded that a sales tax increase of 1.25% added onto state and county sales taxes was acceptable to a 65% majority of Carpinteria voters. However, the consultant calculated that a campaign to pass the ballot measure might be fiercely opposed. The Carpinteria Chamber had already voted against endorsing a possible sales tax measure and would cost $40,000 to $50,000 with a consultant, or at the very least, what they called a bare bones, $25,000 without a consultant. Now, here's where the magic began. There be no obvious $40,000 to $50,000 lying around for the taking, and no appetite for raising money to support a tax measure. A small but savvy bunch of local activists and library lovers agreed in the summer of 2018 to start planning a campaign, aware that if citizens want new services, they must bring the money. With a commitment of $2,500 from the Friends of the Library and individual Friends board members, others chipped in for a total of $8,000, and with that, a modest campaign chest got to work. The Yes on Measure X committee started gathering weekly in September with an established timeline for rolling out printed materials and in-person presentations. They educated themselves regarding the history and the future city budgets in order to convey the urgent need for added revenue. They arranged weekly letters to the Coastal View News and sent representatives to the Fire Board, the League of Women Voters, and mobile home parks. The committee hosted a kickoff party at the Women's Club, distributing FAQ sheets and seeking endorsements, volunteer signups, and donations. In October, they staffed information tables every Thursday at the Farmers Market, every Friday in front of Albertsons. Weekly Pro-Measure X letters and color ads appeared in the Coastal View, and an amazing full page of endorsements by many local organizations and individual Carpinterians appeared twice. In the last weeks before Election Day, 50 yard signs were placed all over town.
Huge credit goes to gifted writers like Geety White, former Friends of the Library board member, Leah Boyd, friend of the Library board member, seasoned campaign veterans like Gail Marshall and Ted Rhodes, enthusiastic ambassadors like David Powdrell, former Friends of the Library board member, Doss Williams, Board of Supervisors representative on the County Library Commission, John Callender, member of the City Planning Commission, and Larry Nimmer, husband of our beloved retired librarian, and energetic workhorses like Linda Reimel, longtime Friends of the Library used bookstore volunteer, whose team hung door hangers at every home in town. On November 6, 2018, the measure won by 56% of the 5,356 votes cast. It was a thrilling victory and an affirmation of the goodwill of the community and the ability of a small and effective campaign team to tap into that goodwill with what former County Supervisor Gail Marshall calls basic grassroots retail politics. We are ever grateful for the tireless commitment of those talented Measure X volunteers and for the vision of Dave Derflinger, who knew what a difference a sales tax measure would mean for the future of our city and our library. We understand that the city's budget challenges will become even greater in the coming years and will require this Carpinteria voters, young and old, to get involved, as these dedicated library volunteers did, in order to maintain the services and the programs that make our city special. We look forward to being part of that future.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. And I'd like to just state for the record, permission was granted prior to the evening to extend the amount of time. So thank you for your comments. Leah Boyd.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I'm here with my Friends of the Library hat on tonight. And I'm going to keep my comments very brief. I think it's interesting how Andy Patrick's comment earlier tonight resonated with so many people, and probably he had no idea that for those of us in the audience, we would be filtering that through the library's perspective. This city, I believe, when it passed Measure X and when the city decided to create its own library, had incredible vision. And I think, as Gabby mentioned, if you walk into our library any day at any time, you will see how much soul is here in Carpinteria. And I thank you for protecting that soul and for doing all that you do for our community.
Thank you for your comments. Gail Marshall, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to make just a couple comments here. There we go. Long ago, the residents of Carpinteria decided that they would not support revenue generators that would change the small-town character of Carpinteria. We have rejected big box development, car lots, so we must accept the fact that there are trade-offs. And the trade-off is to rely solely on sales tax, TOT, property tax, and making sure we charge fairly for those various permits that are labor intense. Everything's a trade-off. I choose small-town character. Revenues must keep up with expenses, and expenses in government grow the same way our home expenses grow. Only government must also comply with additional federal and state unfunded mandates and out-of-control sheriff's budget. Library supporters understood these things when we worked to get Measure X passed. I hope there's the energy in the community to support this next very small increase in sales tax to ensure that our government can continue to supply us with the services that we need. One last thing, I want to say that the much overused but absolutely correct quote by Margaret Mead about a small group kind of overwhelming, really. This absolutely correct quote by Margaret Mead about a small group of committed citizens being the only way to make change is absolutely applies to library supporters.
Thank you for your comments. Rogelio Delgado.
Thank you. I think that every day when we go to Santa Barbara, we pay their city tax over there. They increased it last year, and we don't complain. We accept it. I think that's the change that the people in Carpinteria has to make. Okay, we know that a city's budget actually comes from the following sources: property tax, sales tax, the occupancy tax, and grants. But there's two major misconceptions. And believe me, I agree with these misconceptions before coming on 2024 to city council meetings. One, that the city has a lot of money. That's a huge misconception. But you get that certainty once you start coming or watching regularly city council meetings. Otherwise, you keep following that misconception. Another one, misconception is that the city is overhiring. And I believe that. Yes. Now, I believe that those misconceptions are that, misconceptions. I think that it's important, necessary to educate people like the city is proposing. And you did it with the landscaping fee. Told people, okay, come to this district meeting on this day and time. But remember, I told you, yeah, you're telling them, come to us. And then I told you, you have to go to them. And I think that that's the Brown Act, if I'm not mistaken, allows city council members knock on doors. There's 5 districts represented by each one of you. Just keep that information to yourself, but knock on doors. You get to know hundreds of people that you don't know. I have knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors, and it's incredible the way that people react, and that's something that it's like a social media influencer. They're influencers because they're there every day, posting. So I think that people need to show their support, like writing letters to the Coastal View. And it's a team effort. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I do not have any other speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for any additional comments or questions, and of course, a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we receive the presentation and direct staff to adopt the sample ballot language and continue with the outreach plan. But in terms of the outreach plan, I mean, that's just my motion right there, but just the additional comment that running an election campaign is not, you don't lay it out necessarily in detailed format. You have to always react to different situations. And so I would like to say follow the suggested outreach plan, but also be open and continue to figure out how we need to respond to information that we get during the campaign.
And I'll second that, and then I'll also just thank the people who came today to talk about their experiences with a similar but distinct issue. It's really, really helpful to hear, because a lot of times I think we can hear sometimes more oppositional voices when it comes to issues like this, for good reason. I absolutely understand why, but it's really helpful to see, like our other public commenter said, that we really are a team, the community and the city, and we can only be a team when we interact with each other. And so I just very much appreciate the public commenters who came out today to talk about this.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mayer?
Aye.
Councilmember Nomura?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solorzano?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
And Mayor Alarcon.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with just how broad the language is, but I do believe in the importance of preserving what we have in Carpinteria, and this is one way to do that. So my vote is yes. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Right. The next item on our agenda is number 13, which is award construction contract for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project to Toro Enterprises, Inc., and agreements for related construction testing and archaeology and Native American monitoring services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening again, council members. This will be a co-presentation between Assistant Engineer Josefina Arechiga, also the project manager for this project, and myself. So with that, I am excited, actually, to bring to you another capital project to fruition, another alternative transportation project, a bicycle and pedestrian facility project, that's going to build off of kind of like the Linden Avenue Improvements Project. So alternative transportation is somewhat the theme for this fiscal year or fiscal cycle. So what's before you is the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project. This one is situated in a county parcel, technically, and Josefina will go through the scope of work or refresh you on the scope of work for this project. But in the last CIP study session, your city council went on site visit with city staff to this project as well as other capital projects. So hopefully you're able to envision the project that's going to be before you. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Josefina to give you a little refresher on the scope of work as well as touch on the proposed funding for this project. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. This evening, I will go over the scope of the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project. So the general scope of work for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project consists of a new multi-use trail located adjacent to Franklin Creek from Carpinteria Ave to 7th Street. The multi-use trail will be comprised of pervious concrete and span approximately 900 feet. Additionally, the project will include safety, fencing, landscaping, lighting, solid waste receptacles for trash and recycling, as well as accessibility improvements. The project was reviewed and approved by the Architectural Review Board on October 16, 2025, and by the Planning Commission on July 7, 2025. The project has also received several grants, including the Measure A Cycle 5 and 6 Safe Routes to School Grant Program, the Measure A Cycle 5 and 6 Bicycle and Pedestrian Program, and the Community Development Block Grant. If this project was awarded, the approximate construction start date would be mid-June 2026. And I would also like to add that I have received community calls from the communities with excitement of the project start date. Thank you.
Thank you, Josefina. I will present on, or at least describe, the procurement process of this particular capital project. Like all our past capital projects, it does go through the public contract code process. So that is a legal process that the city must go through. So that means we go out to bid, we receive whatever bids we get, and we evaluate those. And before we bring it to your city council, we also go through the iterative process of finding funds if there's shortfalls. And I'm going to go through that right now, or just in a little bit. But for your information, as to get the maximum exposure of bidding projects now, it's not just the Coastal View News and just posted on the city website. In your staff report, I listed, or in the staff report, there's a list of what we call trade journals, construction trade journals, and bid platforms that we put this project out to bid. And I'm just going to read it out loud here. Bid America, BidNet Direct, Dodge Data Analytics, Kern County Builders Exchange, San Luis Obispo County Builders Exchange, Trico Reprographics, and Ventura County Contractors Associations. So those particular platforms, or bid platforms, or trade journals, we've used, city staff used to get maximum exposure. And even with those particular exposure, we did receive bids, not as much as we wanted to, but we still got bids. We got 2 bids, not just one, like in previous capital projects. This one gives us a better idea of how our engineer estimate or architectural estimate fares when we put it out to bid and engage the market. Our apparent low bidder is Toro Enterprises of Oxnard, California, and Lash Construction of Santa Barbara, California. These particular contractors, we consider it as local, and that's a good thing. We want to have more of a local presence in bidding our projects. I believe maybe city manager report of last council meeting, we mentioned about a new bid platform that we are using. It's no cost to the city, but it's another bid platform where we could upload not just bids, but RFPs, about requests for proposals. So we are now using that platform. Josefina also touched on the type of funds that are being used, mainly the grants, and approximately almost 50% is grant funding this project, namely the Community Development Block Grant. That is actually a federal aid fund, Measure A Cycle 5 grant, and Measure A Cycle 6 grant. So this particular project obtained or secured those competitive Measure A grants. And what is funding the gap between the construction cost and the outside funding are your development impact fees, specifically the park and facilities development impact fees, Measure A. That's the formula allocated Measure A where we automatically get as a city. Gas tax, Measure X, the local transportation fund, and street lighting fund. So all these funds are going into this project. In addition to the award of the construction contract to Toro Enterprises, city staff also recommends 3 consulting agreements to be part of or to support this project, namely the soils, or what we call materials testing aspect, because city staff does not have that qualification or capability, and also the consulting service for archaeological and Native American monitoring services. So that is very specific, meaning that this particular project is within a known area of archaeological and Native American type of artifacts. So you never know when you dig underneath. Quite possibly there could be something like that. That's why we hire a particular firm such as this Archaeological and Native American Monitoring Services. So lastly, city staff is also requesting for a budget appropriation in the amount of $528,500. Those funds that I just mentioned, namely, again, there's the Measure A, gas tax, Measure X, local transportation fund, street lighting fund. Those particular funds, or the combination of those funds, would be able to close the gap or the funding shortfall of this project. And with that, that concludes our presentation, pending any questions. Thank you.
Questions? Yes.
Yeah. Did you say what the engineer's estimate was? And I missed it.
Do you have the engineer's estimate? Okay, Councilmember Clark, through the mayor, it is not mentioned in the staff report. It is $1.8 million. So our engineer's estimate and the parent low bid is relatively came in pretty close.
Very good, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Question again on this one here. This has to do with the landscape. The original plan we took a look at. Are we going with that plan, or is there going to be any modifications to it based on the site visit?
I'll let Josefina talk a little bit about the type of plantings, but in regards to the landscaping that has been approved already by the Architectural Review Board and the Planning Commission. So we go by the particular planting palette of what's approved on the plan. Councilmember Nomura.
And just to add a little bit to what John stated, that this project has been reviewed by the Architectural Review Board and by the Planning Commission and has received approval. And on our landscaping sheet, we are proposing all native trees and plants.
And Councilmember Nomura, I'll just add, our goal is to, hearing from the council, and then if it, majority of council approved for moving forward with different projects, looking on ways that we could further limit, water use and maintenance costs. I think that was taken into account this time, although it sounds like it could have been further, more efficiencies done. But because it's stated without having to go back through the process for this project, we're taking that more as direction for our future projects. And it's how I interpreted it, but happy to take any feedback there.
No, I agree with that. That was a question I did have. Second question I did have, it also showed that there's going to be no irrigation systems put in place. So the plants that are going to be installed, are they going to be hand watered then by the contractor? Is there a contractor insurance for 90 days or is it going beyond that?
Councilmember Nomura through the mayor. So our project plans and specifications, our bid documents, requires the contractor to warranty the work for 1 year. So that includes landscaping. So there's a plan establishment period for that. And should plants not survive within that 5 year or so, if it has to do with some material defect or workmanship, that will be replaced. But in regards to the no irrigation, thank you for noticing that. And that wasn't intended. We did not have a design an irrigation design into or incorporate into this plan. It will be hand water, and just like Josefina mentioned, they're native plants, which is typically drought tolerant type plantings.
That I realize. Has it been specified though that if the plants aren't watered, it's the responsibility of the contractor who's maintaining it for that 1 year's time?
Yes. So the plan establishment we have specifications on on landscaping, and there is specifications on that warranty or guaranteeing of those plants to survive within that 1 year. But as soon as the project is complete or we deem as substantially complete, the city will be able to take over the maintenance of the planting and all the improvements that are there.
Okay, the reason I brought that up, that is a gray area. Oftentimes the contractors won't really honor the non-watering situation, claiming that it's climate change. Thank you.
Just a follow-up question then, because we're working with, have we worked with contractors who have not honored what Councilmember Nomura just mentioned?
Madam Mayor, council members, I have not. Contractors who bid on city project, not just our city project, but this is somewhat a standard in all local agencies. Boilerplate language, it's a 1 year warranty. We actually, our standard specifications require a 1 year warranty. So I have not seen where a city or contract has not honored the warranty or the guarantee period.
And we haven't had any issues with Toro Enterprising then, in that respect?
Not in my experience with this particular contractor.
Toro also carries the maintenance for the city too, so I mean they've got a substantial amount to lose. However, it's about a 50% on plants that are planted without irrigation, specifically native plants, because of the sensitivity they have in actually transplanting. They usually never transplanted. In native habitat, their seeds.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, so the project has a 90 working day timeline, it sounds like. So what should residents expect during construction, and are there mitigations in place as now we're getting closer to that phase of the project?
Okay. We're coordinating on a response. So as far as any mitigation measures, our construction, we do have permission or permits from the Architecture Review and Planning Commission. So there are mitigation conditions or mitigation measures under conditions of approval for construction noise, construction dust, public outreach or public outreach, construction noticing. Like we're no different from any other development projects. So we have those standardized mitigation measures, monitoring measures.
And then how do we communicate those just to the residents that are in that general area? I'm sure that we have some process for doing that, but can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yes, Vice Mayor, through the Mayor. Fortunately for us, we have a proactive approach. City staff has a proactive in getting projects out the door and having folks be prepared that a project is coming. And this is no different. We've gone through that process, not just the Architecture Review Board and Planning Commission. So we're pretty proud of that. We had a proactive role in getting folks involved. So now we're in construction. So that process includes a construction contractor as part of their plans and specifications to do construction noticing, public noticing. So we have a standard, a specified of 10 calendar days for construction notice and another 2 working day advance notice. So those who are living within that area or adjacent to the area, they will get construction noticing. Not necessarily the entire city, but it's those who are impacted. Like, for example, I'm just thinking the Arbor Trailer Park is one of them. Actually, I think the majority of the Arbor Trailer Park is within that area. So they're definitely going to get notified. And then 9th Street, of course, those properties on 9th Street.
Great, thank you.
And then I just wanted to add a little bit to what John was saying, and I just wanted to state that we do have construction working hours, which are typically from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and those can be modified according to the project, something that we will discuss in our pre-construction meeting and what would be best for this project. And then I know I had some comments regarding noise and how we can kind of reduce the noise for the surrounding neighborhood. And we do, as a part of this project, we do have a conditions of approval that does state that all construction equipment shall be maintained in proper working condition and should be fitted with standard noise reduction features such as mufflers. And that's something that while I'm on the field and doing my inspections, I will make sure to keep a close eye out for.
Great, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for that extra information.
Any other questions? Okay, no questions. I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no Zoom speakers.
So I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for any further questions and of course a motion.
I'll tackle this one. So I move to award a construction contract to Toro Enterprises, Inc. in the total base bid amount of $1,815,750.25 for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Cotton Shires and Associates, Inc. to provide acceptance materials testing services in an amount not to exceed $34,487 for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Leftwich Archaeology to provide archaeological and Native American monitoring services in an amount not to exceed $43,540 for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, and to approve a budget appropriation in the amount of $528,500 to the Capital Improvements Fund for the fiscal year 2025-26 Capital Improvements Program budget for the Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, and approve the recommended transfers as outlined in the financial consideration section.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mayor?
Aye.
Councilmember Nomura?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solorzano?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
And Mayor Alarcon.
Aye. We will now move on to item number, or actually, I will ask for a 10-minute break, and then we will come back for our final item. Welcome back to the Carpinteria City Council meeting. Today is May 26, 2026, and we will resume our meeting with item number 14, which is the mid-cycle fiscal year 2026-2027 Capital Improvements Program budget.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, community members. It's going to be a team presentation this evening, including Stefan, who isn't here, but Downs, who helped us put together this beautiful presentation we'll be looking at, and then I'll also be joined by Jeanette Gant and John Lawson. So I'm just going to start with a quick overview of what we'll be discussing tonight. We'll start with what the mid-cycle process is and what we're going to be covering, along with what will be handled separately from this process, along with some general terminology that we'll be using throughout the presentation. I'll then touch on how capital projects are funded and made, and turn it over to John to discuss our currently programmed projects and proposed changes. And then Jeanette will discuss our proposed currently non-programmed projects. Finally, we'll finish with a look ahead to our 2027 capital improvement plan, or if it's often referred to CIP, 5-year CIP that we'll be redoing. So the mid-cycle, like I mentioned, I think during one of our earlier items, is very much like the mid-year. It's just a point where we recalibrate our expenses, what we thought they would be, our revenues, what we thought they would be. And in a case of CIP, will we be spending the money in the fiscal year that we thought, or potentially does that need to be, in some cases, we've moved it up a fiscal year, or we might move it back a fiscal year. So you'll see some of that this evening. We'll also be talking, we'll be talking about our program projects, proposed changes. We'll be talking about all the non-program projects that are just not programmed for next fiscal year, 26, 27. And then some of the things that we won't be touching on is any previously approved projects with no changes. So anything in a 25, 26 that's already approved, if there's no changes, if for whatever reason we don't complete those projects this fiscal year, there's an administrative process whereby they carry over to the next fiscal year. We won't be talking about any future year projects that are 27, 28, and beyond. And we won't be discussing our operating budget or any ongoing programs. However, we will get to do that at our next meeting in June. So just some of the terminology here, development impact fees, or as they're often referred to as DIFs. And so that's a fee that's imposed on new development to pay for a portion of the cost of providing public services to that new development. We also have some what we call Group 1 projects. There's nothing special. Group 1 isn't a special term. It's just how we categorized those, and that will refer to those, but those programs that are currently in the budget that we're proposing adjustments for. And then there's the Group 2 projects, which again, nothing special. It's just what we're calling those non-program projects. We'll also talk about Quimby fees. That's one of the sources for some of the projects that we'll be discussing about, and that's another fee collected from residential developers to help specifically fund parks and recreational facilities. So it's a semi-restricted funding source. And then we'll talk about the revolving fund, because some of the projects that we have this evening are donations. And so they come into what we have as a revolving fund, and essentially that ensures that those funds that are earmarked for specific projects stay committed to that project, and they don't go back into the general fund. What we're looking at here in this slide, it just provides a high-level view of the projects we'll be discussing in more detail later in this presentation. So I won't go into too much detail here, because we're going to go by these projects one by one. But what you can see here is a snapshot of everything with the project names, the current adopted budget. Of course, the proposed new ones on the bottom have nothing there. What the proposed changes that the proposed amounts that we're recommending, and then in the far right column, what is that plus or minus change between what's adopted and what we're proposing. There's also some asterisks there, and the single asterisk basically means that those are contingent upon grants and or external funding, and Jeanette will go into more about what that means a little bit later. And then the two asterisks that you can see here down by the 780,000. That just points to the fact that all of these funds are restricted or semi-restricted funding sources, which again, we just want to continue to push out to the community that these are not funds that were available for pavement or other items. This here is just where the funding is coming from. So there's a total of $8.2 million there, and that is includes those non-programmed proposed new projects that we're talking about. And then you can see the funding sources by amounts and also percentage. So 80% or almost 81% are grants. Development impact fees represent about 9%. Donations, or at least pledged donations, make up 7%. And then other semi-restricted funding sources such as the road maintenance rehabilitation account, gas tax, and Measure A. So just a quick review of how capital projects are funded. They come in from one of three buckets. So the most flexible is our discretionary funds. There's no projects that are utilizing those this evening, but that's the bucket where things like our pavement will have to come from. There's the semi-restricted funding sources. Those are development impact fees and Quimby fees. Those can be used for a specific type of project, but aren't limited to a project within that type. And then there's the most restrictive. Those are grants specific and says you will do this specific project, and that's the most restricted funding type. There's going to be some changes you're going to see this evening that go along with our practice here as a city, which is we always use the most restricted funding sources first. So you're going to see a change this evening where we actually remove, I think it's $90-some thousand that was in discretionary fund, and we move it to a semi-restricted because some development impact fees became available. So we come to you and we have to just get you all to approve that change of where we're taking the money from, but it's a very positive thing. And then last, how are capital projects made? So first, needs are identified, and this can happen through a number of different ways. Community requests come in, we become aware of some safety hazard, our aging infrastructure, or city vision triggers like the library. So, a need is identified. We then go into the planning stage, and this can be directed by city council, or this can be researched by staff and then brought to your council for consideration. And there's some of that's going to be happening this evening where we're bringing some of these new projects and some of the planning that's been done and asking you all if you would like to add them for 26, 27. The third part is is actually the formal aspect where the council decides whether to adopt it as part of the annual budget process. And once that's done, then we kind of get into the work where the engineers come in and they create the plans, you get permits, environmental review, and all of that. And then once the design is done, you get into the construction and closeout, and that's where we're actually starting to construct things. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Lawson, and he's going to run you through each of our programmed items and proposed changes or projects.
Thank you, Michael. Next slide, please. So this is the mid-cycle adjustment, or the proposed project for adjustment within this mid-cycle. Just more of a reminder that this is a 2-year budget again, and there's 3 formal review points. So we're basically at the second review point. You had your first one in mid-year review, which was back in March of this year. We are now at the mid-cycle review. And then the next one will be, of course, the next mid-year review, but that's in the next fiscal cycle. So with that, Group 1 projects, there are 3 capital projects that city staff is recommending for adjustments. So this one is the first one is the Carpinteria Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. And I'm going to use the bridge project slides as an example because, give you a heads up. You're going to see similar slides, similar formats of each capital project. And I'm just going to touch on certain parts of the slide, but if you have any questions, feel free to have that question mid-presentation. That's okay. I'll be able to talk about a particular question if you have, if you want me to clarify anything in this slide or in the slides here. So what's before you is basically an overview of the current phase, our target, what we believe is the target phase completion, target project completion, total estimated cost, and the funding. So in this particular Carpinteria Avenue Bridge Replacement Project, next slide, please.
And John, if
Yes,
I can just
yes.
step in, one of the things, feedback that we got from the Finance Committee was just to point out that that total estimated cost is for all phases, and not just the current phase.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So that is a good clarification, because when we mention total project cost, it's not the phase cost. It's basically your design, right of way. There's right of way involving construction. So with that, this slide shows what staff is recommending to adjust, and it's more on the design and project management side to adjust it. Is basically reduction. That's what we're doing for this particular project. And accordingly, when we reduce the expenditure category, there's also the funding source that also be adjusted as well. If there's any questions on this particular slide, I'll move on to the Carpinteria Living Shoreline Project.
Just to confirm, so it's the total estimated cost of the entire project. Is that the same rationale with the funding? So 88.53% is federally funded of the total project, not just the design.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. So in this particular project, it's the Highway Bridge Program Fund, federal aid funds, and just like you correctly mentioned, 88.53% is the federal share, 11.47 is the local match for all the phases.
And this is also the project where you'll notice that the general fund is having a reduction in that 98,500, and it's being changed to the highway and bridges DIF, or development impact fees.
Moving on to the Carpinteria Living Shoreline Project, we are currently in design. Our target phase of that design completion is summer 2028. So we're still very much still in the beginning of this particular phase. And this project only has funding for design and right-of-way. No construction funding has been identified or even applied for at this time.
And when would the design be presented to the council?
So though it's summer 2028, along the way, if you haven't participated, but our Sustainability and Environment Division has taken the lead on this particular project. So there will be public outreach parts of throughout the phase of this project. So when will the City Council? There is no particular special meeting that I have or we have scheduled for the City Council, but when we have these public outreach engagements through staff at different venues, you're more than welcome to participate as just regular Carpinteria members, community members. But at this time, I don't anticipate or foresee yet a special City Council meeting for this project for talking about this design.
So it sounds like the design is still being worked on through
Yes.
community workshops, and when that is complete, it'll be presented to the council.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. And I was also, pointing out to what John stated about there not being funds for construction. So that's why you'll notice that the target project completion is to be determined, as well as the total project cost. We don't know what the final design will be, and we don't know whether the council will wish to pursue that final design and to move forward.
Mm-hmm. So this particular size shows the adjustments. We are still working with the state aid monies that we received. All we're doing in this particular regard for this cycle, or for the next mid-cycle, or next, I get it confused, next mid-cycle, we're adjusting the expenditures upwards. We're increasing the funding, but we're still within that budget of this two-year budget. And just like the Carpinteria Avenue Bridge Replacement Project, this is also outside funding where we get reimbursed. And this one is actually 100% reimbursed, unlike the Highway Bridge program.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I'll just add, there's also a section here that's in all the slides that kind of gives an explanation of the change and talks about how we got a later start than anticipated. And so part of this adjustment shift is just moving these funds to a later fiscal year.
Thank you, Michael. Yes. All right, last but not least, as part of staff's recommendation to make adjustments on existing projects, is our Carpinteria Community Pool Improvements Project. We are just very much in the beginning of design. Your city council already authorized a consulting agreement to proceed with the design of the much needed improvements for the community pool. And Jeanette Gant is though our parks director, she's also kind of project managing that design phase as well.
Well, I had a question about the funding for that one, John. So it says a 90% donation funded design phase. So for a project like that, when does the fundraising campaign start, and then who manages that?
Very good question, Vice Mayor. I'm going to turn this question over to Jeanette.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, through the mayor. So our plan is once the design is completed that we'll get a better idea of the actual project cost, and that's when we will launch a fundraising campaign. I want to be very mindful. I don't want to continue going back to the community, increasing how much the project will cost. So we're waiting to see what a closer estimate will be. This estimate was from the facility needs assessment study and was very, preliminary. I'm hopeful that we'll get the design and estimated cost here in the next coming couple of months. I think launching a fundraising campaign for a pool in summer would just be a really good strategy. And then we're, of course, also always applying for grants, and we have received donations from individual members of the community as well as foundations, even before we launched this project.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
If there's no further questions on the Group 1 projects or the program projects, we're going to move on to the Group 2 projects. These are the non-program projects, and that means these capital projects are without funding for the fiscal year 26-27. They're exciting projects. So we're going to, Jeanette and I are going to tag team on these projects, or excuse me, these slides. So moving on to the next slide, Michael, Bluffs 3 Park Project. So we'll give a little bit of context on this one regards to the, was it $800,000?
Yeah, so this property was acquired by the city from the Land Trust of Santa Barbara County in about 2020 to preserve coastal open space while expanding recreation access. Since acquisition, the city staff and a design consultant have prepared conceptual plans, you see one here, and renderings for future development as funding becomes available. And due to the successful fundraising campaign led by the Land Trust for the acquisition of the property, there's approximately $750,000 set aside by the Land Trust in an initial improvements fund for this work, or to begin this work, I should say. This money, along with the Rincon Bluffs Endowment, will help fund the initial design of the project, and completing the design will position the project competitively for future state and federal construction grant opportunities. The next project we have on the list for you is the El Caro Park Playground Replacement Project. The playground at El Caro Park was installed around 1996 and was partially upgraded about 2003. And it's now approximately, since the renovation, about 24 years old. The typical service life for public playground equipment is generally 15 to 20 years, depending on the usage and the environmental conditions. Staff has identified the El Caro Playground as a priority due to its age, deteriorating condition, and limited accessibility for users that may have mobility limitations. This project proposes full replacement of the existing structure with a modern, inclusive, and accessible playground. Staff believe this project will be competitive for external grant funding due to its accessibility and community benefit components. Staff recommends adding the project to the upcoming work plan and prioritizing grant funding efforts, and there would be no direct city costs for this project until funding is secured.
I have a quick question about that one. So we've gotten some inquiries lately about the bathrooms at El Caro. Is that a separate project? Because I just want, in case the public is looking at this and they're seeing El Caro Park replacement project on here, I want to be clear about where the restrooms fit into that.
Yes, Vice Mayor, through the mayor. This one, of course, is what it says, playground replacement project. However, El Caro Park restrooms is part of the 5-year CIP.
Okay, that's right.
Unfortunately, it's not within this capital improvements program budget. But yes, it's in the books, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Literally,
okay.
It's in the books of our 5-year CIP. When is that going to be implemented? That's to be determined.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. But I also understand that there have been some just updates to some of the issues that people might have been experiencing, like with soap dispensers and I think, was it the paper towel or the drying equipment? It sounds like there's some kind of really minor work maybe being done with those to try to get them a little bit more usable while we wait for the 5-year CIP projects to.
That's correct, Vice Mayor. So these are the maintenance operational needs of this particular facility, this restroom, and you're right. We've seen it. We've received service requests, Jeanette and I, from the toilets to the sinks to the you name it. That's there. It's aged. It's worn and torn already, but it's. Not part of the playground replacement project, but we are very much aware, just like our pavement.
Great.
And sorry to put that in there, but it's synonymous. We know about this issue.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like John mentioned, they are separate, and the reason being is I'm confident there are grants out there for accessible playgrounds specifically. So having them separate, I think, could make us a more successful in a grant application if it's focusing on accessibility and the playground specifically. Unfortunately, John's comparison is correct. It's the pavements versus the other items. But
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And that actually, just a quick follow-up question to that. I think you answered it, but in terms of grants, is it typically just one or the other? It sounds as though that would be like a stronger grant application, or would it be stronger if it's the park and the restroom? I'm just curious to know what is even available in terms of grant funding and what's out there.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Mayor Alicon, and we would always keep our eyes open for either or. And once this is on the list, your council is directing staff to pursue grants for this specifically. Since the restroom is on the larger list, we've gotten to a degree that direction, and so I would believe we'd be able to apply for both. What I have seen, it's in Santa Barbara recently, and just in the recreation world is very specific to playgrounds and accessibility, but that's not to say adding in the restroom wouldn't make it stronger. And if there was a grant that allowed us to do so, we would absolutely try for whatever we could get.
And then one more question. This might seem a little silly, but do we have any opportunity for donors to name? I don't know if anyone would want a restroom, fancy restroom named after them. But do we have those programs in place? I know you came up with you presented a policy recently, so I'm just curious if there's been any more thought or idea to naming of facilities.
Mayor Alicon, that's a great question. Yes, your council approved our donation policy. It didn't dive into naming or sponsorship specifically, but that's definitely one of the next things on my list is to come to your council with ideas and receive some direction and feedback on how far or how you'd want to create that policy, because I know there are some agencies that are not fans of naming and others are and do it, but I would definitely want guidance from your council on how to structure any sort of sponsorship or naming policy, because I'm sure there are people out there who would absolutely donate if they were able to put their name on something.
Right. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one more thing because I realized giving some information to the Finance Committee, I want to make sure the full council got it. So another reason that these items are coming to you is because some of the things that we've heard from feedback in the past from the council is that often staff in the past would apply for grants and receive them prior to coming to council, and then would maybe come to council with the project at that time and say, hey, we have it halfway funded, and there might be feeling compelled to move on with the project because we didn't want to lose out on $500,000 or whatever. And then also we know with, the amount of work that the staff is currently juggling, that also staff time is precious and how we dedicate it towards various priorities. And so part of bringing these things to you is not only to get your approval for the project, but also to spend time on going after the grants and just ensuring that it's in line with what the council wants before we begin any of that work. And that's hopefully a new and welcomed change from previous and why we're going through this process.
All right, and if there are no further questions, I'll move on to the Monte Vista Dog Park project. The city's effort to establish a dedicated off-leash dog park began in 2018 with conceptual discussions and subsequent feasibility study. In 2019, the city amended municipal code provisions related to off-leash regulations and later implemented a temporary pilot dog park program at Monte Vista Park, which is still operating today. Since then, staff has conducted community outreach, evaluated public feedback, and completed project design. The project is now nearing final compliance and permitting review. Staff has advanced the project to its current stage with minimal direct cost. However, moving into construction will require budget authorization and funding allocation. Given the longstanding community interest and prior council direction supporting a permanent off-leash facility, staff recommends programming funds for construction pending final approvals and permits. The proposed funding plan for this project includes $150,000 in Quimby funds, along with anticipated private donations of approximately $50,000 from the local nonprofit CDOG, fully funding the estimated $200,000 project cost.
Can I have a quick question? So for the CDOG donation, is that something that they've kind of agreed to take the lead on getting those donations through their organization and then they'll present it to council? Is that the approach?
Yes, Vice Mayor Solorzano, through the mayor, that's my understanding of the approach, and that even before my time here, probably dated back to 2018, CDOG has done various fundraising efforts. I know they've sold merchandise at various events, including the Avocado Festival. They also have a Dog of Monte Vista book that's being produced. I think there's a few volumes of it. And so the intention, although not formalized, is that the CDOG would present the city with some donation for the project.
Got it. Great. Thank you. That's great.
Let's see. So next up is Tamul Interpretive Play Area Repair Project. So as your council knows, we've discussed it a few times recently. The existing play features at the Tamul Interpretive Play Area were installed around 2011 and have been heavily used for approximately 15 years. Due to the park's location, the salt air and moisture have accelerated the deterioration of the play materials and surfacing. Recent assessments identified several deficiencies, including deteriorated rubberized surfacing, damaged play elements, and failing landscaping. The rehabilitation project for the play surfacing is approximately $150,000. The project has already received $10,000 in community donations from the Morning Rotary Club and Lions Club to support the rehabilitation efforts. Staff recommends adding the project to the upcoming work plan while continuing fundraising and grant efforts. And no direct city costs are anticipated until additional funding is secured. Those are the Group 2 projects. I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
I have just some questions in terms of, I mean, a lot of these are parks that require updating that require to be updated. So what is the plan in moving forward to maintain our parks? What is the city's plan? I know we've talked about an assessment of all of the parks, and that's kind of probably phase 1. But I'd love to hear from you what the plan is moving forward.
Yes, Mayor Alicon, and I'll look to my colleague and the city manager to chime in as you wish. But yes, we're very aware that unfortunately for our parks and facilities, we don't have like an ongoing fund, if you will, for repair. We do have maintenance fund and upkeep, of course. We have implemented Public Works, maintenance division has implemented monthly playground inspections so that we are able to be aware as the playgrounds are deteriorating, keep track of it so that we're not letting it get so to a point kind of no return, if you will. And then I know the Morning Rotary Club has expressed a strong desire to not only assist with fundraising for the work that needs to be done now, but to set up a fund for ongoing maintenance and repair for Tumul specifically. And I think that's most likely our best plan of action moving forward as we are raising funds for projects is similar to the Land Trust when they were able to purchase the Bluffs property. Their fundraising efforts were so successful, they were able to set up endowment funds for the Bluffs properties specifically. So that would be the goal, if you will, with our fundraising, to just raise not just enough for the project right now, but ongoing.
Great, thank you. I'm really happy to hear that.
And Mayor, I'll just add that, and I'm going to touch on it a little bit here with the next 5-year CIP. A part of that's going to include, hopefully I say this right, an asset management plan, which is going to include, assessing all of the city's facilities from the roof on this building to our various playgrounds and ensuring that we have we're tracking the life cycle of those assets and when those repair costs would be coming up and ensuring that we're planning for that. But that's something that's still to be done. If there are no further questions, just move on here to, so our 5-year roadmap. What this looks like is, a community assessment, feedback workshops, council meetings around town about projects and what matters to them. Of course, you're going to consider critical infrastructure at times. I don't know how many people would come out in support of the bridge. It's not very exciting, but until it's not there. And so staff will also be making recommendations just based on what's critical. There's the asset evaluation, which the mayor just brought up, is to making sure that we're not thinking just about new facilities, but what are the existing ones and are we taking care of them? We have our own internal analysis as staff, what gaps exist between, what the community needs and what we have, and then long-range planning. So we have to make sure that we're aligning the things that we're doing with the general plan, with climate goals, with regional priorities. These are all just things to take into account. There's not like a percentage for each one. And then finally, the capital outlay, which is like what can we actually afford, and sometimes that changes your 5-year roadmap. Now, the way that it's set up now, because we have a 2-year budget, the council would approve years 1 and 2 of that 5-year CIP. The years 3, 4, and 5 are specifically for planning future projects. And some of the feedback that we got from the Finance Committee is that committee, along with some of the residents that attended, were very interested in us coming back with what some of the community engagement aspects of this 5-year development plan are going to be. And John and his team will be bringing that to them shortly, because we have a very tight timeline here where to get this approved by February or March for our next 2-year budget adoption cycle. And then similar to the last one, where the last cycle that we went through was about how the life cycle of a specific project. This is about how the project makes that 5-year CIP. Very similar. You're going to identify various projects via those workshops and things and asset assessments that we mentioned. There's some sort of a score. Again, this isn't the formal scoring, but by need, cost, urgency, and plan alignment. And then staff recommendations will go to the council, and you guys will further refine that list, based on what we're recommending. And then we'll get into the funding strategies. And then finally, it goes to council for adoption. And that's the general high-level process for how items get onto that 5-year CIP. It's also probably helpful to let folks know, and John, correct me if I'm way off, but there's something like 70 some odd projects in the CIP as a whole. The 5-year CIP is what we're really trying to plan for and is a much narrower group of projects. And then there's the 8 that we went through this evening that are actually in the budget. And so that's how that process goes. And with that, happy to answer any final questions.
For the budgeted CIP, so the projects we just saw, how many of those are involve restrictive funding? So not funding that could be used for, like we've been saying all night, like pavement or something.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I think we might have covered that, and I still think it's good to reiterate that it's 100%. So there was some general fund monies that were in there at one point in time. I wish I could remember what slide it was, or here you can actually see that, between grants, development impact fees, donations, all of those funding sources fall into that restricted or semi-restricted category, so 100%. Now, that sounds really great that we're not using any discretionary revenues on any of our projects, but it's a double-edged sword. You want to be using your discretionary revenues on those projects like pavement that don't have these types of funding sources. So it's great that we're still getting work done while we don't have those discretionary funds available, but I don't want to say that that's the goal, is to always have no discretionary funds, because we do need those funds for those types of projects.
I think it's really helpful just to say for residents to know that for these projects, nothing is taken away from some of the other priorities that required to have that discretionary funding. So I appreciate, and just a general comment, this looks so professionally done. At the Stephen Downs, did you say, worked on the PowerPoint? It looks like it was done by an independent firm or something. It's really nice. It's just the layout and the colors and everything. It make it really easy to follow what the presentation was and the changes and everything.
Oh, thank you. We'll definitely pass that along to him. He did a great job.
He did.
Any other questions?
My question is sort of very specific to the tier 1. Is that what it was?
Group 1.
Group 1. Sorry, I knew I didn't have that right. The Carpinteria Bridge replacement. It says $15,345,000 is the estimated cost. 88.5 is federally funded. Is that 12%? Funded by other sources, or is that going to be money we're going to have to find? I'm sure that I would know this. I just would love to be refreshed on that.
Yeah, Councilmember Mayor, I'll take a shot at it and let John fill in anything. So one is that I learned from, John pointed out during our finance committee, is we have been paying for these costs along the way. So there has been the 11% that the city's been paying, so it won't necessarily all come at once, but then yes, and we would use that same priority or that practice of looking for the most restricted funding sources first, and then going down to those discretionary funds as necessary.
Great, thank you. And then my next question is about the pool, because this is it's a hot topic. It's noticeable. People notice. They know that we're fundraising. We know that we've put it out there that it needs to have these repairs, so people ask me. And we have this completed target project completion of 2028, but if I am reading this right, we only have funding for the design work. So that's like a 1.1-ish million dollars that we would need to fund, that we would need to find funding for. And at what point will we I mean, I feel like this maybe is the first time we've formally said we're going to start a fundraising campaign for it. I know that we've been looking for funding from foundations and whatnot, but at what point will we have to look to our general fund to pay for this? Because it's known by our community that it needs the work to be done, and I know that there's, like, I've asked this question before, like, there's safety issues and such. Is there like a target where if we don't have the funding, we're gonna have to just be looking to our general fund, and is that something we should be preparing for? Did I phrase that well? Sorry.
I picked the short straw. No, so the goal is that it won't, right? That's for this one, this project in particular, very much like the library and things, has a lot of support for it. And, you know, to Jeanette's point earlier, we have organizations who've expressed interest in supporting it, but they really all are kind of asking, well, what is that final number, which you're very familiar with, and with the development of the skate park and how those things can occur. So, but at some point, because this is, it is an amenity of sorts, right? But it is an amenity that the city has, and there could come a time, right, where there are safety concerns, and the council may have to act and use one of our reserve funds to get that work done, or discretionary funds as available. So I don't want to say that couldn't happen, but that's not our current goal. Our current goal would be to get it completely funded, but it is a possibility.
And just to add on to that, Councilmember Mayor, through the mayor, to date we've successfully secured about $300,000 from various organizations for the project. I'm very confident we will be able to fundraise and get grants for this project. There's the alternative option is also doing work in phases. It's of course not the ideal or my preferred option, but if we needed to, we could apply for grants each year to just, you know, go down the list from highest priority to lowest priority. That would be tough. Having the pool closed multiple times is not the first choice by any stretch, but that would be another option if that we could discuss before coming to your council to tap into other funds if we wanted. Like the facility needs assessment identified, you know, the gutter and the concrete as highest priority. I believe that was about $400,000. So if we needed to start there and work our way down the list, that's something we could also do.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback off of your question, I think that's an important, like I think of timeline, right? Because now we have, should we approve the new proposed projects? I mean, and approve this appropriation or change, those are kind of competing capital improvement projects for your department specifically. So I am curious to know, how would the community pool, based on, right, safety concerns, how does that fall in line with the other park improvement projects? And if and maybe I didn't quite understand this clearly, is whether or not you are going to do a fundraising campaign or move in phases. It sounds like that hasn't necessarily been decided yet, or is there a specific launch? Is there a plan created yet, or is that still to be, it's going to come? Is it to be determined?
Yeah, Mayor Alcon, so a couple things. So I have been meeting with Julie Sabriones to draft out a fundraising plan, but it's definitely not formalized yet. We are waiting for this dollar amount to give us an idea about what the real need will be, what the ask will be. To your question about competing projects for my department specifically, yes, there's definitely a lot of projects that are near and dear to my heart and the communities that I'm attempting to address all at the same time. I do think there are specific pools of funding, no pun intended, thank you. You know, so I think there's a group of pool users who would definitely donate to the pool, but maybe not the playground. So, you know, some of our master swimmers, our water aerobics patrons, some people who maybe no longer have young children who are utilizing the playground, but they themselves use the pool. I think we have a great group there that is every time I'm there, they're asking like, how much is it going to be? When can we donate? You all get these as well. And then the other projects are like the playground will be grants specifically to Mole. We have a great partnership with Morning Rotary and others who are kind of spearheading their fundraising campaign. So it is all starting. I am asking for your council to give me the green light to move ahead on all these projects, but they're kind of different avenues, if you will, and different pathways for funding. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think the Carpinteria Pool Improvements Project has been on our capital improvements for a while, so I was just curious in terms of like specific timeline, but it sounds like it's still being.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I did not answer that one. In regards to timeline, the 196, the firm who is doing the design should also be able to provide us with a clearer timeline for construction and the entire project. But to your point, we are in this place with 196 who has the similar question of they're going to provide us with a timeline for if we get the funding all at once. And then we're also going to have a timeline and kind of discussion about if the funding isn't coming as quickly as I hope it will be, what that would look like. So I have asked them to kind of work to create two paths for us, and we'll have to play it by ear to a degree based on the funding.
Thank you.
If Mayor, I can add one other thing, just because I know it's been coming up, anecdotally, I think in the community related to revenue measures and things. We've heard questions about cities' OT, use of consultants. And so one of the thoughts around this is, well, first of all, we are a contract city. Most cities small cities are contract cities because when we face a large amount of work, we don't have the capacity to do it. We use consultants, and people see that those high costs, but it's a savings over us having staff on year round to manage work that we might not have that level of work. And so we are a contract city, and when we have projects, multiple projects like this, ideally we have project managers and things, or consultant professional services, where it's still a lot of work for Jeanette to manage multiple contracts, but ideally we have those project managers that are helping to move those projects along. So even if we have 4 or 5 at a time, it's more like managing the contracts than all of the work. There has been times in the past for this department specifically, right, where we had somebody that was in this position that had a knack for managing projects and did a lot of that internally, but that also comes with its pros and cons. And so we would be looking to try to manage it that way. And the cost savings also comes in getting these projects done sooner. So if we're able to get 4 or 5 projects done in a year rather than one year, one the next year, one the next, that's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings in waiting for all those projects to increase in cost and be done later. And so it's strategically done by the city to use those project managers and those consultants in these situations.
Any other questions? Okay, no questions. I will open up public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have anyone via Zoom?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
Yeah, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for any further questions, comments, and of course a motion.
I'll move to receive and file the mid-cycle fiscal year 2026-27 capital improvements program budget report.
Second.
So we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. And I'd like to just say in terms of this process, I don't want to speak necessarily for Councilmember Clark, but I think we went through various iterations of this presentation. We had a lot of community feedback, and it was just a really good experience in my perspective. And I think it made the overall strategy change a bit, and I think that was a really good thing based off of the input that we received. So just want to thank staff for that.
Yeah, man, we want to thank you, because I think it should be noted that we did not come to you with this PowerPoint. And so we came to you with something else, and it was the feedback of you and Councilmember Clark and the community that got us to this point. And so that really is, I think the Vice Mayor said it earlier about us being a partnership and a team, and we don't always come with the best thing or the most understandable. Oftentimes we we know so much information that we might take it for granted, and being being able to come to that committee and get that feedback is ultimately how we get to this point. And also, you all are just receiving this evening because it will be brought as part of the full mid-cycle that Lisette will be bringing on the 8th. At that point in time, we'll be focusing on those operations and stuff, and we will not go back over this because you all have heard this, so those numbers will be in there, but we won't go into it in the depth that we are. But you'll see these and finally approve them at our next meeting.
Perfect. We will now move on to committee reports, inquiries, and other matters presented by council members.
I had a board meeting of Beacon on Friday, and we had a presentation from all 3 harbors, so Channel Islands Harbor, Ventura Harbor, and Santa Barbara Harbor, where all of them had not received their federal funding for dredging. And what was the most interesting and very fascinating was the before and after of the dredging of the photos that they were able to provide, the harbor masters. It's a significant, all 3 harbors are significant sand traps, which is actually, as Councilmember Nomura has mentioned multiple times, is actually what Carpinteria is in its face. The way it faces, we catch sand here. And so they need to be dredged. And it's actually an Army Corps of Engineer project, and they're not allowed to advocate for their own funding. So it took a lot of pressure from our local federal folks to get that funding. And so all 3 harbors received their dredging. And that was just something I thought I would pass on. It was very interesting. I also went to Santa Barbara Chamber's housing policy meeting in Santa Barbara with the city manager. And it was a sort of a regional kind of collaborative discussion about the strategic plan for housing in our county. And everybody sort of presented their different challenges that we have in each community. And I felt that it was really well done. Mac Carlson did a presentation, and it was amazing, and he did a great job. And I think the more these conversations are happening, the more everybody is hearing, and the better prepared we will be to have a more robust, regional approach to housing. So that's it from me.
Thank you for those updates. Any other updates? Okay. Seeing none, I just want to confirm attendance of council members for our future meeting. Looks like everyone, yes. And we will officially adjourn the meeting at 9:24 p.m. Thank you.